The gifts of joy it comes from the Lord. The Lord brings me joy. But as I praise and give God all the glory, then I can reap the rewards of what He's given me. That gives me my joy. The other thing is we have to get past the point of what about me? When you get married, it's not about you. It's about y'all. It's about us. I did 22 years in the military. And every time we moved every 3-4 years. Every time we moved, my wife had to be uprooted from her profession. So I said, baby, hold on. I said, when I retire, I'm gonna let you choose a retirement spot. I didn't know she's gonna choose North Carolina. I thought we was going back to Arizona, but I said, I'll let you choose the retirement spot. And I said, we're gonna focus on your career. I said, I don't care what I got going on. I said, I'm gonna take the back seat, you're gonna take the front seat, and I had to be a man of my word, and that's what I did. But in taking the back seat, that doesn't mean that I don't supposed to protect my family. I don't supposed to get out and work. I spent 2 days in retirement. I said, man, I got to get up. I got to go work, and that doesn't mean I'm not going to retire. That means that it wasn't the time at that particular time, but that me spirit has to go when you get married. Now, when you're single, it's all about you. What's your ambitions? How can you better yourself? How can you better your relationship with God? But when you're married, your relationship with God becomes a connection. Even my wife, if she's, and I'm about to pass it to you. I know I'm talking too long. When my wife, if she's boggled in the spirit, then I have a connection with her. I can say there's something off with you. So I begin to pray for her. I say, tell me what's going on. And I release that from her through prayer, because there's no word or definition, man-made definition, word I can give her that can release it but God. So I have to pray for my wife, and I used to. I need to get back to. I used to pray for her every morning before she left and went to work. And then our times at work got switched. But the thing is when you cover your family in the morning and then you cover them at night, there's no gap in covering. That's right. If I was to change my car insurance today, and there'll be a gap in insurance for 24 hours. So if you get into an accident within that 24 hours, you don't have any car insurance. So we have to make sure we keep our spouses, our family insured at all times.
That's good. That's good. You don't let no gap come now. But so talking about ministry and being married, and I want to piggyback off of something Apostle said, because it's so profound. People think you can't juggle it all. People think, okay, well, I can only just do the ministry portion, but I can't be the wife, I can't be the entrepreneur, I can't be the career woman or the career man and be successful in all parts. It determines your mate. Your mate is a factor in you winning. And if your mate can't see you winning, then you have a problem at the table. If your mate cannot see you winning, then there's a serious problem. Because I was talking to Apostle, I'm at the height of my career and probably pretty finna go higher real soon. And I was talking to him about it, and he was like, that's good, babe, but what about ministry? You're still traveling. You're still going all over the world to preach. Like, we need to make sure that the balance. And someone immature would take that as you trying to hold me back. Right. They would take that and run with, you trying to hold me back. Why can't I? And he was right. So the higher that we go up, your mate has to be able to balance the capacity with you. Because when you go on a plane, you start taking off, it has to be balanced. If not, one side of the plane is going to tilt, and you're going to have a problem. Everybody on this side going to come over. And so you have to respect that from your spouse. You have to respect that part in your ministry walk as well, because we can get too high up and we lose the sound of our mate. And our mate is there to help that balance. Because in my mind, I'm just going to be honest, them figures looked real good, okay?
So I said, well, if we got to go, we just gonna have to go. And listen, close up the church and we can do virtual for all I care at this point. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest. And he was like, no, we can't do that. So it's good to have somebody who can keep you grounded, thank you, accountability, who keep you grounded. Because I look, I go back on the road preaching, and we can get on these flights and be in this state and that state, help people do their business, and we'll be good. That was we be real good. And he was like, no, we can't do that. They turned you off. Because the Lord didn't want you to say nothing right
you
now.
also have to, and see, you also have to get to a point to where you know what's most important in your life. You know, money is not as important as Christ. You know, as saving souls, as loving people, as making people feel loved. Now, not being a people pleaser, it's a difference. You can make people feel loved by your mere presence, because the Bible says in 1 John that God is love, and if you don't know love, you don't know God. So if someone's in your presence, they should feel the love of God. You know, and we have to be very, very mindful. You know, never to get to a point to where our ambition supersedes Him. And that's what I told my wife. You know, my wife, she may feel I'm hard on her, but I want her to be the best that she can be. You know, I've already been the best that I can be in my career. That's why I retired. You know, now it's time to focus on my wife and her being the best that she can be so she can get to retirement. You know, that's what marriage is. Marriage is, you know, not just me having all these accolades and all these esteems and rewards and my wife having nothing. You know, it's both individuals, you know, being the best spouse and the best friend and the best representative of your marriage that you can be. And that's the focus, but the focus can never be without God, because He's always the centerpiece. You know, you can't bring focus to a picture without having a camera. You know, you first have to have a camera to focus in. You know, He's that camera. You know, He zooms in and He zooms you out. When you're too focused in on something that's not Him, He's going to zoom you back out and say, hold on, that's not you. Not right now. You moving too fast. And we always have to follow Him. So when we find ourselves, and sometimes He let us bump our head. He let us zoom in, let us see what He going to give us, but He said, not right now. You know, you're moving too fast, but I want you to see what you could have if you follow me, if you're obedient. And with my wife and I just want to give a full transparency, because 22 years, right? My wife and I, we separated twice in our youth. But each time, or once my head got together, because it was me.
Heard what he said once
My head got together.
I'll make sure y'all heard that once
see,
he got his head together. Okay.
Because see, I'm transparent, you know, and if you know me, I try to tell the truth at all times. You know, if you say you tell the truth at all times, then that's a lie, because sometimes, you know, you speaking too fast, and you spoke too fast for yourself. Then you got to go back to the person and say, hey, I misspoke. You know, and the thing is in my youth, in my immaturity, I felt like my family was holding me back. And then once I got to the realization and I got lonely, and I said, hold on, I need my family.
If you think you're lonely.
Come on. We got to do that together too. But the thing is people think the grass is greener on the other side. You know, and that is not just a relationship thing, that's a Christ thing. You know, when things get hard in Christ, you want to throw in a towel because you think the grass is greener on the other side. Why? Because you see the drug dealers living good. You see the people who treat people wrong living good. But the thing is, that's temporal. Everything that's not connected to Him is a temporal is a temporal gift, ability, or reward. The thing about God is, this is my wife, and when He gave me her, He said, "To death do us part." So that's permanent. You know, she's mine permanently. You know, so absent from the body is present with the Lord. You know, so I believe that even when I go to heaven, I'm gonna say, God, where's my wife? You know, and that's what I'm gonna ask God. Where is my wife?
Don't call me home soon and he ain't calling
Hey
me.
now, wait
Hey.
a minute.
I said, because I feel like when you give me something, it's permanent. You know, so we have to get a mind frame, you know, to where a out is not an option. You know, every time we get into an argument, what you gonna do then? My maturity is past that part. We have to get to a point to where your maturity is past that part. If you've been in for 10, 15 years, and every conversation you still say, oh, well, we can just leave. We can just do this, we can just do that. You need to mature. You know, because that conversation is dry, it's old. Get to a point to where now y'all know each other, y'all know of each other, y'all been with each other, y'all shared each other's soul. That's good right there. Y'all shared each other's soul. Because when you're intimate, you share each other's soul. So now that person becomes your soulmate. So since you became each other's soulmate, there is no oust. So we have to get to a point to where a rejection and retreat is no longer an option. Because whenever something gets hard, we want to retreat. We want to run. And I'll let you run with that. That's a good segue.
I love it. Listen, can we clap for them right there? Come on, our apostles, 22 years. Listen, I love it. I love it. So they talked about insurance, and he talked about getting a car. Does everybody in the room want a car? Does anybody in the room want a car? It's not it's a serious question. Do you want a car? Does everybody in the room want a new vehicle, a better vehicle? I brought the expert here to tell you just how to do that today. Y'all have heard her on the Light 103.9, the Triangle Station for inspiration. She's here in the building, y'all. Cousin Kimbra's here.
Thank you all so much, and my apologies for being late because I underestimated how far Spring Hope is from the other side of Greensboro. So I'm driving, I'm like, no way. But you guys know me when it comes to cars, and everyone thinks cars, if you buy a car, we're going to call Cousin Kira, we buy a car. I met this man and love his family for many, many years. I only deal with cars because that's the only way I can get people to come and talk to me about credit. I could care less if you have a BMW or if you have a Ford Focus. I really don't care. What I do care about is that you guys have information so that whatever you do choose to spend your money on, you keep as much of it into your pocket as you can, your credit score is as high as it can be, and you know all of your options. You know every single option you have. So when it comes to purchasing a car, your power comes from your credit score. Your power comes from your income. Your power comes from your peace. And it was so nice to be invited to even come and speak. And I said, you know what, I'm going to come out here. I am in the process right now of writing grant money for some HBCUs in this area and even outside of the area when it comes to financial literacy and making sure that we have the tools that we need to be successful. And there's so much money, grant money, charity money, just these different programs that are out there to help you be successful, and we don't know about them. It's not that we don't qualify for them, we don't know about them. We're missing out. We're missing out. So every chance that I get to speak, it's like I want you guys to at least start doing some research so that when you go into any, like the car is one piece, but guess what? You can buy the wrong car and it blocks you from being a homeowner. And nobody thinks about that because it's just a car. You know what I mean? So I want people to just ask me questions. Any questions that you have, my website is Ask Cousin Kira. It's very simple because if I can answer a question for you, I will. I do not charge to answer questions. And that's my ministry. So I love you guys because I wish I was here in the beginning to hear more. But everyone has a calling. And my calling is information. My calling is making sure that when you walk into a place, if someone is lying to you, you can tell the difference. Right now, when you don't understand your credit score and you don't understand your buying power and you don't understand what is a good deal and a bad deal, you are in the hands of, more than likely in that industry, the worst person you want to sit across from. And what brought me to the realization that this is what I was supposed to be doing is I saw week after week after week after week, people of color in particular, getting hit in the head and spending too much money on stuff. And they expected it because they expected us not to know they were doing it. And they smile and they have whole, like, I can't tell you how many training courses that I went to, and I would sit in a room and they were teaching us how to be dishonest. They were teaching us to distract you with something over here shiny and bright and you're all excited about it, knowing that in the next 2 months when that first payment came due, you were going to be struggling to try and pay it. And everyone's smiling and it's like a celebration. You got your car and it's the flash. You got to pay for that car for like 6 years. 6 years is a long time. They don't call it 6 years. They do it by months, so it doesn't seem as bad. It's just 72 months. No, it's 6 years. When you see 84 months on a car, I was crushed. Now they're at 90, 96. I'm crushed. Your car is done if you bought it new in about 2 to 3 years, which is why the manufacturer only warranties it for 3 years. Right. There's a reason. And if you can take this from me, what I would like to see is there's so many cars that we start out at 100,000 miles and we sign that same 6-year loan. There is no way, I don't care who made it, it is going to make it the 6 years. It's not happening. I don't care who made it. It's a Honda. It's going to be a broke Honda at 140,000 miles. You're not going to get there because the Honda people said, as soon as this warranty ends, we out. And then we get mad at the dealership and say, you sold me a lemon, it's a bad car, and you did it. No, you bought it at the end of its life. So we have to be really wise in the decisions that we make because we got little ones that depend on us to have a high credit score to make sure that if they need something, we can do it. And it's these cars. So when people say car specialist, I'm like, yeah, okay. Because I know I can't get to you guys sometimes without the promise of the reward of, I want to drive the car I want to drive. I could care less. It could be purple. It could be a rainbow colored car. But if I can sit down with somebody and pull through their credit and say, look, these two things here are the reason why you're missing about 40 points in your credit score. Let's correct these two things, revisit and come back, and then get your car when you can qualify for the 0%, the 2.9, all these great specials that they see. If we're not a steward of our money, sometimes we can't wait 2 months. Sometimes that car broke down and we was getting ready to go to work and we're gonna lose our job, and it just creates this snowball. And the snowball is great because we're sitting there going, I gotta drive. They got you. As soon as you are in need of something, you are at the mercy of the kindness, the God, and everything in this person that is there to make money. There are no nonprofit dealerships. There are no, on this planet, nonprofit dealerships at all. It is 100% profit at all times, and there's a sprinkle in each dealership of respectable people who will do right by you. And when you walk in, and there's usually on a reasonable sized dealership, anywhere from say 60 to, if you include everybody, about 100, 120 people, there's about 5 people that would be good and honest and take care of you. The rest of them, not so much. And you'll never know who they are because everybody smiles, everybody's kind, everybody is happy because you're paying their bills. There's people that have bought cars and literally when y'all walk out, they are laughing. They're like, we made a 5-pounder. 5-pounder means they made $5,000 of profit out of that 6-year loan that you just agreed to sign for. And $5,000 is a lot of money. So you gotta pay, the dealership gets $5,000. The bank, depending on your interest rate, is taking anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 on top of that car. The manufacturer made the money when they sold it to the dealership, so they made more than everybody, and they control the price of their car, and everyone has their hand in your pocket, and you just want it to drive and get you from point A to B, and you've got all these different places that have taken your money, and it takes you 6 years on average to pay it back, and the car probably won't make it the 6 years. It probably won't. Brand new. If you drive a lot, it ain't gonna make it. So I want us to be mindful when we make any type of major purchase decision as to what's best for us. And so we've had great conversations, Thomas and I, and he knows Don't get me wrong, I love a nice car. I do. And I've had probably too many in my lifetime. But if I could back up 20 years when I was younger, I have wasted so much money. I've wasted so much money. And you know, when your parents try and tell you something, I'm laughing because I'm blessed to have mine now. They be telling you, don't you do it. So you just do it because you're grown, and after 18, you can sign whatever you want to sign. And you're like, I got a car. And then they show up, and they're like, whose car is this? It's my car. And then when something happens in life, when you're in your 20s, when you're in your 30s, you're like, Mom, you know, I need some money from my bank because they're going to take my car back because I don't have the car payment for it. But now you call Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad told you not to get the car. But then you went and got the car anyway, and then you can't pay the payment. God forbid if they co-sign and you let the payment go late. I've seen it all. You know what I'm saying? I've seen it all. So what I want us to do is, and you know what, I used to feel like don't co-sign. I used to feel like that, but I will say that across the different spectrum of people that buy cars, they do help their families. And I don't want people to say don't co-sign. I don't have a problem with anyone co-signing as long as you make sure that you give the tools for that person to be responsible to get on their feet. So I hate when somebody says don't co-sign. Our kids need us, and if we don't co-sign, they're gonna really be in a big hole. So I don't believe in that, but I don't believe in co-signing for someone that's not worthy. So I've had people come in willing, you know what I'm saying? I've had people come in willing to co-sign, and in the conversation with their child, I'm like, you don't co-sign. I'll tell you. You don't need to co-sign. I'm like, I wouldn't do that, because you can tell in the conversation of somebody if they've made the decision to make a change so that this is a truly, a co-signer should last 1 year. The loan is 6, the co-signer is 1 year, because it takes you 1 year to recover from late payments or repossession or whatever, and then you are back on your feet. But the problem with co-signers, they stay too long. A lot can happen in 6 years. How many jobs have we had sometimes in a 6-year span that we didn't plan on having to find? So you can co-sign, but it's supposed to be 1 year, and then in that year, they work on themselves, they work on their credit, and they show you that they're willing to make a change in commitment. Then they refinance with the credit union and go off and be free. That's the difference. So we can't just be like, well, look, I ain't co-sign, because then they're gonna drive your car. Oh no! You're gonna let them ride the bus? We don't even have the transportation structure in North Carolina for that to be feasible. I'm from New York, so it's night and day. I remember I first got to Richmond. I went to HBCU, and I was waiting on the bus for like 3.5 hours. I was like, well, you don't have no buses, and they were like, we don't have this transportation system set up this way. So younger Kira could walk. 50-something-year-old Kira is not walking. So car is a necessity now. It wasn't back then, now it is. And your job opportunities and so forth, thank goodness that there's opportunity to work from home and different things that we can do to get around it. But I like to talk about income and what we're doing to save our money and to put ourselves in a position to do so. So if any of you guys are taking notes, writing stuff down, there's 2 things that will help us do that. One of them is Albert, and one of them is Rocket Money. Mint used to be the best thing in the whole planet, and then they got bought out by Credit Karma, which ruined it, and now we had to pay. But it's like $6, it might be $9 or something. And the reason that those 2 apps, and you pick the one that works for you, are so important is that we don't know where our money goes. They're trying to go to a cashless society. Now, you guys remember when we get like cash and you cash your paycheck and you get the $100 bill, you would fight to break the $100 bill, because you know as soon as you do, you look in your purse again, you're like, wow, I got $6. It goes when you break it. Swiping is worse. When we swipe, swipe, and then one day it goes no or declined, it's too late and your money is gone, and now that's the definition of living paycheck to paycheck. When you do automatic bill pay, they always want their money automatically. I don't know, I probably have about 15 things that automatically come out of my account. So I'm not mindful of it because it just does it. And it's spent before you even see it. You're sleeping, they done took your money. It just happens. It's annoying because you forget, and you're like, oh, you thought you had some money, you get that notification, you're like, oh. And now they're smart, they send you a text message, which is even more upsetting than the email. You're like, oh, 0, how'd I get to 0? But those 2 apps are, Albert is one, and the other one is Rocket Money. So you pick the one that fits for what you're doing. Rocket Money is cool because it'll tell you you wasted money on a subscription you haven't even logged into. Let's change this and cancel. You can do it through the app and then let go, because $6 every month adds up. It really does. We just don't see it because it's small increments. They want you to sign up podcasts. There's stuff, they're like, your such and such time is ending. I'm like, I don't remember when it began, because we sign up for stuff and we forget about it. I'm a big fan of credit unions and having multiple streams of banking. And what happens is your bank statement only tells you what you spent at that bank on that card on a day-to-day basis, not how you spent it. And it doesn't give you that full breakdown. So in the 80s, I remember my mom, when I was enough to pay attention, she used to reconcile her checkbook, because we used to write checks, and that was a written ledger, and you knew what it was, and we didn't have all this access. And she used to sit down at the table at the dining room and write it down. Those two apps give you the ability to see exactly how you spent your money, and it can combine all the different ways you spend your money, with the exception of cash. So any card you have, you attach it to it, and cybersecurity is a mess. So you at risk all the time anyway. So I know people like, I don't want to do it. You at risk anyway. They got everybody's information in here about 6 years ago. So I don't even panic over that. We'll just sue them and get your money back. But the reason those apps work is that if you have 2 different credit cards, and you have a state employee's account, and you have a bit of money that comes out for your car payment, and it's coming out of your savings account, it totals up how you spent your money. It's going to say you spent $200 getting gas this month. You spent this on groceries. It reads the codes that is attached in the chip in your card, and it can categorize how you spent your money and then cover all the accounts you have, whether it's credit cards or banking. And the reason that's important is you should sit down at least once a month and see where you wasted some money. There's somewhere something in there that you got that you did not need, that you can sit back and look at and say, you know what, I could have probably paid this bill. I could have probably added money over here, but we don't see it. And I tell this same story, and I'm about to get Starbucks when I leave here. I am a Starbucks junkie. I am a Starbucks junkie. I'm terrible. I love coffee, so everyone has a vice. I don't smoke. I'm not a drinker. I don't do none of that stuff. So I justified in my mind that I deserve to have a vice of coffee, which is ironic, because they give you free coffee at every dealership I've ever worked at. At all of them, no matter what state I've been in, coffee is free. Well, it's not. And I would bring my own little cream and try to save money. You know, it's not the same. The little one they sell from Starbucks isn't even really the macchiato one. It's not the same. But I had justified in my mind, you've earned this. This is you get that coffee, Carrie. You don't do anything. You get your coffee, right? Until Mint, at the time when they were about, showed me how much money I wasted on coffee. Then I said, oh, Lord, I could have had some, I like purses better than I like coffee. I done spent 2 purses on this Starbucks. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna get a different coffee. I'm gonna try McDonald's coffee. That's when they came out with McCafe. So I'm like, it's $3 cheaper. Let me just do this. Again, not really following how much I'm spending. I don't eat McDonald's because I can't anymore. There's something about when you get to a certain age, I could kill food, and now it don't like me. So I know I didn't eat anything there. I drank it, and at best I might have some oatmeal. It showed me I spent $67 at McDonald's. I was like, ooh, I might as well have my Starbucks. So then what it did was it made me think. Instead of having over $100 worth of Starbucks, if I'm still spending $60 on an inferior coffee, why don't I just maybe every other day get your Starbucks, stay underneath the $50, you'll be here, you'll be $17 ahead. But until I saw it all in one, you just swipe, it was $3. Nobody's paying attention to $3. I paid attention to 67. And then I was mad because I don't like McDonald's. And I'm like, I don't want to give them $67. So you have to see where your money is going to know what you're doing. When you walk into a dealership to buy a car, they have pre-planned that even though you said you wanted to pay $400, they didn't hear you said $400, they heard $700. Okay. No, I said $400 when I came in here. They done test drove you in the nicest, cleanest butter leather with the sunroof, and you in there enjoying it. And you said $400. And then when you sit down at the table, they be like, they pass, look, this is what we do. We slide you the paper. And you be like, 670. You're like, I said 400. Well, your credit, we had to charge this rate and you didn't put any down and you were upside down in the car you brought. And so when you add all that up, it's like 670. And you're going, oh gosh. The first thing we do is in our mind start justifying, well, I could pay the 670 because I really like it. This is the one I wanted. I could do it. I could do it. I could do it. And that's great on that day. That same car doesn't look, smell, or run the same over the course of the 6 years. By the second year, you don't even want it anymore. You don't even want it. You're like, I'm so sick of this car. I'm so sick of this car. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, it doesn't look the same. But we have justified in our mind when we really want something to suffer or to push ourselves or to stress ourselves. So the thing that I want you all to take from it, please don't stress over money. Please don't stress over money. Please don't stress over money. They're calling you, you owe this bill. Then don't answer the call. They can't bother you. Like, I hear people that are really in a bind and they're so stressed out over money in the car. I have people that got a car repossessed. You got another one the next day. You'll be all right. It's going to be expensive, but it's not the end of the world. But I want us to get, before we get into these situations, understand in the course of 6 years, 7 or 8, whatever these new loans are, there's ups and downs. We didn't plan for COVID. You couldn't have told me that was, I'd have been like, you're right. It sounds like a movie. It sounds like a movie was happening and we lived it. And when these little ones get older, they're going to not remember what that looked like. But people lost jobs. People lost part-time jobs. People lost people. You know what I mean? And it was all stemmed around how prepared are you for when the worst can happen? And it can in a 6-year period. It absolutely can. But if we're mindful and the steward of our money, it'll happen, but it won't take us out. It'll happen, it'll be uncomfortable for a hot second, and you have I would call a survival plan of what it is that is the important parts of what you need to do to survive whatever the hardship is. When you're married, one person got to keep good credit, co-sign for the one that we had to let go. Our mindset and how we're trained with money is one of the reasons why we're slightly always behind the curve. And I want us to have information so that we're ahead of the curve. So that when stuff happens, we're like, no, I got it, I'm good. If there's a loss of employment, the 6 months, some people are like, well, I don't have 6, I got 3. It really does matter because there's things that are beyond us that happen that financially it's him. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. You got to pay a bill no matter who wins. That's right. Your bill's not going to change after the 5th of November at all, not 1 cent. But what did change was, and I was thinking about this. I got gas the other day, and it's the lowest it's been in a minute because I forgot. I forgot. I was putting $97 in my gas tank about 2 years ago, and I was mad every single time I went to the gas station because I drive, because I live so far from the Durham area that I usually work in. That's an extra $300 a month. Albert told me that. But if I wasn't tracking, I usually ask people, do you know how much you spend to the dollar on your gas? They can't tell me. You just know it was $4.75 a gallon, and it's $3.79 a gallon, whatever the change is. But when you see $300, we didn't get a raise of $300 during that when it happened. Nobody made it extra, but it didn't matter. And people that are renting, when you rent your apartment, North Carolina's a mess because I haven't been here long. They just change your whole rent, and they're like, yeah, it's $200 more. That was the rent special we let you in on, and now the special is over. So the normal rent went from $11, now you got to pay me $1,300. So then you're like, well, shoot, do I move? Because you just be moving to another rent special, and they're going to do it again. Right. Then there's you have to know your money and have a not paycheck to paycheck mentality, because we always think everything is good. I had a surgery where they took my thyroid, and I was out. They were like, oh, it should only take you 2 weeks. Ma'am, I'm not 20. It took me 4. So disability is great. It's not what you make. So these are things that you don't plan for that happen. So I'm going to go all the way back to, you said $400 for your car payment, and it's $670. So at the time, you love the car, that extra $270 doesn't seem like a big deal until COVID happens. We lose a job. The gas line burst in Canada, and so gas prices jumped up $1 to $1.50. Now you have an extra $300 to get to work, but you took on an extra $270 to get this car that you like so much that had the butter leather interior. These are the things that I want, and the reason dealerships, they like me and they don't like me, is I'm gonna tell you the truth. Because they done hyped you up, telling you, you could do it, you could do it, you could do it. And I'm like, yeah, no, maybe you can't. You better make sure that you have the plan B, some backup, some money down, save up some money and put it down so that you can get there. It's not the job of the dealership to make sure your finances are great. It's to sell a car. And they're gonna give you, they are cheerleaders for real, because that's how they pay their car note. So I want us to take control of our money. I want us to take control of everything that comes out of our pockets so that we can plan for it. So when somebody has paid off a car, do you know what the best practice is after you finish paying your last car payment? What would that be? Does anyone know? Nope, nobody?
Take that money, that you paid all the payments with, put that money towards another major bill. Snowball.
You have to. And the reason that that's so important is that when I ask people after they finish paying off a car, what did you do with that extra $400, $670? They can't ever tell me. Nobody to this day has ever told me, yeah, I took it. They go, you know what? I don't know. Because they got comfortable. And it's great. If you can pay a car off and you can get around and stack 2 years worth of money and you got peace and you did the maintenance and did everything you're supposed to do and the car is still running, after 2 years and you've saved up all those payments, you have a choice. The car is going to need something. You can either take the money and fix it, and you'd have it. You don't have to put it on credit, because credit costs a whole lot of money. Or you could say, I'm going to take this money as a down payment, and having an extra $10,000, because that's what it is. An extra $10,000 will keep you in the same payment years forward. When you're a homeowner, a lot of people are disillusioned by like, oh, I'm going to wait till the rates come down. When the rates come down, the prices go up. Get your house now. You can always refinance. You can always refinance. You can always refinance anything. You can refinance a car. If you had to take a 20% rate because your credit had a hit, fix your credit and refinance it in a year, not 6 years later. You can't stay with high rates. But I know I feel like I'm rambling, but I'm trying to get out as much information as I can before I gotta go, because I want you guys to be solid. Every time I meet somebody and they sat and they got a piece of information that might make something easier or better for them, then I feel like I've done what I'm supposed to do. We all have a purpose, and if I don't follow it, then I'm failing. But it's about saving your money. Everything is great now, wonderful. Save your money. Save your money and save your money. And then start evaluating, how can I pay this off? When I have a car note, I factor in my mileage, because I drive so much, is going to depreciate my car even more. So I can't just pay the base payment. I have to add 100, 200, because the car is dropping faster than I can pay for it. So that's something that I learned how to do. Is we were taught probably in, I say it got strong late 70s, 80s. African Americans, we weren't allowed to have loans. So you have these old banks. I bank with Mechanics and Farmers because they were there for us when the other people didn't want us there. So I keep an account there even though they don't have the best of everything, because I appreciate that they were the only things we used to have. So one of the reasons it's important when it comes to banking and figuring out what to do with your money, interest rates are designed to steal your money. Credit cards, this is a good one here, write it down. Credit cards do not have a grace period. Credit cards are 20, 30% on everything you buy. So if you bought something on sale and you signed up for it, and then you put it on your credit card, by the time you pay for it at the minimum payment, you didn't save nothing. You didn't pay for it twice, which is why they offer you credit cards when you walk in any type of department store. Interest rates are killing your income. Interest rates are killing your income. And late payments are even worse. So if your Capital One says that payment is due and it's $25, we're like, oh, I got $25. So the mindset would be, okay, it's due Wednesday, but I get paid Friday. I'm gonna just pay it on Friday. Makes sense. It's 2-3 days. It's not a big deal. It is. The late payment for Cap One is $39. So you pay the 25, because Cap One they don't say nothing. Credit cards don't say nothing. They're like, unless you get to a certain days, then they're like, wait a minute. Are you gonna pay me? You owe me that money. But they don't say anything right away because they want you to become the late payer, because when you pay your $25, because that's what you knew the payment was, it went nowhere, and you're in the hole even more because your late fee was 39. And then you say, how have I been paying on this all these years and it's not moving? It won't. Credit is designed to keep you poor. It's not designed to help you. And our grandparents and great-grandparents weren't allowed credit, and they amassed land and houses and had income and jobs. My grandfather worked at a landscaping company, and my grandmother was she used to clean houses and take care of kids, and amassed on a basic income with no credit. Land, houses. They used to have 8 kids. People used to have 8, 10, 12 kids. Everybody was fed. Mother was at home because she didn't work, and they lived and still had a nice home and were homeowners. And we've got kids that make, $15 an hour and they mad. They're like, that's not enough money. Yeah, but you ain't got no bills. So not enough money for what? You know what I'm saying? Like, not enough money for what? So I want us to be mindful of every dollar that comes out. Does anybody in here drive like rideshare, Uber Eats and stuff, and they want to make extra money? Is anyone or know someone that does that? Instacart? You have to make sure you have a form to figure out how much money you're making versus how much money you're losing. Sometimes our part-time job is even more expensive than having it at all. The gas changes back and forth. They don't pay for your oil changes. You depreciated your car because you put 18 million miles taking people stuff or taking people. And then you get ready to trade your car in and you owe $10,000 and it's worth $2 because of the miles. We don't think about that. We just drive. You got one car in the household and you driving everybody around. I'd rather co-sign than to kill my car and hope that they pay it, because the damage that you do, we don't see it. So the importance of the Albert and that Rocket Money is making sure we see every single penny we spend. Nobody, I could tell you, I love math. They always said, women aren't good at math. Yes, they are. Don't even take that. Yes, they are. I can calculate what my check would be when I was in sales within dollars without even looking at anything, because I'm very mindful of money and numbers. And I want you guys to adopt that now, because at some point we're going to have to retire. At some point, I work with a lot of seniors that, what would you do if you could not work and you had to use disability or you had to do Social Security, and they give you $1,000 to live how? If you don't own your house, and if you own your house, how are you going to pay your taxes? Hey, it's not reasonable. So we have to have money set aside, and I'm glad you put this together to have so many people that do estate planning and all these things to make sure that you are in the best position at all times, because emergencies happen, and that's why they're emergencies. You don't know when they're going to happen. We don't know. We do know where our money is. So we can't ever, we don't know how much time we have, but we do know how much money we have. So I want us to start adopting new spending habits. It's a mindset change. It's a mindset change. You know how many people got mad at me and walked out because I told them, you're not getting that 120,000 mile BMW. I don't care how much you love it. It's my dream car. We're not doing dream cars at 26%. We're not. We're not. We're going to do the Ford Focus with the warranty, $200 less a month, fix our credit, come back, and then get the 26,000 mile BMW at the same payment as what you were about to pay on the old one, and be at peace. Have a warranty, have all the things that go with it. So it's a mindset change. If you guys, and it's so funny because when I talk and I get around people, I talk and I'm thinking like, here, you better do this yourself. But I know how I need to lose weight. I know I'm not supposed to eat. I just be eating a cookie anyway. And then I'm like, you all right, Kira? And then I forgive myself instantly. I forgive myself quicker than anybody else. It's the same thing with money. Go ahead and treat yourself. You YOLO. I remember when Drake came out a few years ago, it was yo, yo, yo. And I used to hate that song. I'm like, no, you only die once. Like, please stop saying that. You have to live and have enough money to eat tomorrow. Please stop telling people that. And all these people was running around with his little song, and I'm thinking, no, this is the worst song ever. But you have to be prepared. And if we want to be independent, and you were raised with being independent, so that's why I ain't co-signing, because anybody is capable of not needing one. So I get it, but I kind of want us to start looking at every single month, sitting down, doing a reconciliation of all the money you spent, and being honest with yourself and say, you know what, I probably could have spent this money over here. And you feel so accomplished when you see that score go up, when you see it go up. Now, I know you all have to talk, so let me tell you the credit cards, leave alone. No First Premier. Anybody got a First Premier? You don't want it. You're going to work to close it out. No First Premier, no Fingerhut, no, what's the other one? No Aspire cards. Any card that charges you a yearly fee, you don't want. Because when your credit is really, really strong, and I'm looking at an 800 and I see First Premier, I'm like, oh, we used to have problems because nobody with an 800 would ever have this card. So sometimes the name association on your credit report looks crazy. So there's some Cap ones are fine. Milestone, not a fan of them. Credit One, no. There's just certain things you just leave them alone. And you can wait. Credit is designed for instant gratification. And we feel like we need it because we can't wait to have it. Whatever it is that you want, even if you don't have a credit card, if you save that same money, you would save the interest rate they charge you on it, and you can still have it. You just won't have it today. We have been taught to get everything now. Now. You don't really need but so much credit. And those same cards and those same things will block you from being a homeowner. You do need a place to live. So when people say, no, don't get a house, every single dollar that you invest in your house, at some point, because your land appreciates, you get back when you sell it because all of it comes back to you. When you rent, they just raise your rent, you paid off their mortgage, and they are on a boat somewhere enjoying themselves. And will put you out if they just decide to sell. If you rent a house, and that's happened to me. When I first came here, I wasn't in a position to buy a house because I just got here and get established. That lady was like, yeah, I'm selling the house. I was like, oh, Lord, like, it's her house. So I want you all to have your own homes so that you have something to pass down. Generational wealth is built on good decisions. So those decisions, and it's sacrifice. If you hear nothing of the word that I say, it is going to be a sacrifice to financially get the things that you want. Unless you have the winning magic number, and let me know what it is, you're going to have to work. And it should irritate you that you worked the hours that you did, and literally in the matter of a month's time, we've given away all of our hours that we can't get back to give other people our stuff. And then they literally can still come and take it from us because it was based off of credit. So I think I got a lot out. Is there anyone before I leave here that has a question that I could help? Because your question might help someone else. You lease new cars and you buy pre-owned cars. Leases are designed to get you into the habit of buying a new car, because the manufacturer, if they build a really good car and it lasts for 10 years, then they'll go out of business, which is why they're designed to last about 3 to 4 years. They have to sell you another car. If they make them too good, then they ain't gonna make the money. So a lease, to me, if you don't drive a lot of miles and you like something new and you're gonna change cars anyway, and a lot of us, even when you lease, it breaks down. You don't own a car till you have the title. So most of us, by the time we get the title, the car is worth like $2,000. I have no problems with leasing new cars because they give all these breaks and all this money and stuff. BMW has an amazing lease. There's certain cars, Volkswagen in December, Volkswagen gives you a car. It's a sign and drive is real. I've had them. It is real. And they're amazing because you don't own the car until you have the title. So people say, I want to own my car. You do not own your car. And it's usually about, when your credit is right, it saves you about, I would say about $100 maybe a month because of the incentives that they give you to do so, in the hopes that you're going to come back and buy another one every 3 years. So there are great lease deals out there. Absolutely. And when you see those lease payments on the TV, the small print would be like, with $7,000 down. I'm like, well, it should be $200 after I gave you 10. But it's everyone is, they payment sell. Everything that you see on TV, low payments, they're not. Over the course of that time, it's that big number at the end. Truth in Lending has a big giant number at the end that shows you how much money you spent, and that's a hot mess. You bought a car for $27,000, but then when you look at after you make 7 years of payments or 6 years of payments, you spent $45,000. Did you really want to spend $45,000 on that car? Probably not. So your job is to pay it off as soon as possible, but leasing is fine. If you do excessive miles, you got to kind of look at that. But if you do reasonable miles between 15 to 20 at max, you can do a lease. And what works at the end of a lease, you can actually tell what your value of your car is the day you buy it, because they predetermine in 3 years this car is going to be worth about this much money. So you only pay for the value of the car you have it. So it's great. I have leased cars with the intention of getting the smaller payment and at the end of the lease buying my own car out, because it's their car. When I had a deer hit my car in the lease, ain't my car. They fixed it, it depreciated, and the Carfax showed that it had an accident. I don't want the car no more. So at the end of the lease, I had planned on buying it, but at the end of the lease, I was like, oh, you got a little broken car, here you go. And I didn't have to pay not another dollar. So there's benefits to it. But my intention initially was take the free money they were giving me, lease the car, and then at the end of my lease, I'd only owe, I think the end of that lease would have left me with, I want to think it's like somewhere $15,000, $16,000. And there was no way I could have bought that car 3 years later at that price either. So I said, okay, if the car is a good car and you're testing it out, I'll just buy the lease out, because I'll never be able to buy this car, and I've had control of it, it's brand new. I'll keep it until that deer hit me. When the deer hit me, I was like, you keep it, because now it isn't worth it anymore. You remember my little white car? I love that car. It's flat somewhere. Anybody else have any questions? Yes. Rocket Money. Mm-hmm. Credit Karma is not real. Credit Karma is the best, most genius advertising I've ever seen in my life. I could hug the person that made it, because I'm proud of them and I'm penniless, but they are rich. Credit Karma is an advertising tool that got everybody to log in and tell them, we're going to give you your score. It is not a real score. Your score is 644. Like it's like there's no real basis behind the score. They'll tell you you're here and you're here. They'll tell you you're here and you're really up here. It is a advertising tool that gets you to log in and sends you messages, and then you want to do your taxes? You want to buy a car? I can save you some insurance. Like, it is a selling tool. And they sell and they sell and they sell by making you think that your score is up and down. All those cards that they offer you are the worst cards that you can have. If it's offered on Credit Karma, don't do it. That's the quickest way, because they are an advertising tool. And so they bought Mint out, which is why I'm heartbroken, because I'm like, you're going to ruin it. Because they had all these people give their name, address, email, phone number, and now they can contact you. Then they sent me 2 emails probably today. And I keep it. Now the information, so you know, your TransUnion and your Equifax information is 100% correct. So it has a value if you just use it for what it benefits you for. So if it tells you that your score changed because of something happening, it's changed, but your FICO score is your real score. So you have to find one of your banks or something should give you a FICO score, and you got about 70 different scores you could have in FICO. So that Vantage score that they keep sending you really is worth doodly, because you got about 70 real scores. It's based on you got an auto score, you got a mortgage score, you got 8 million scores, Model 8, Model 7. It's crazy, right? But Credit Karma is the best tool and genius that they got. Millions of people, where before you would have to watch TV. So I started in advertising. So my job as a media coordinator was to figure out, if I'm trying to sell you, one of my contracts back then actually was Volkswagen. And you remember that old thing, Farfanugan, and I was there during the times they were coming up with the slogans, and I'm like, that's funny, but but what we did is we'd have a round circle, and we'd say, who would drive this car? What do they eat? What do they listen to? What time do they turn on the radio, so that if I was to pay for a radio ad, that they'll hear it, because I'm trying to target this particular consumer that's going to buy my product. Credit Karma got everybody on the planet to give them all their information, because they thought, it's the only reason we got it. We thought we were going to get a free score. It's not even a real score. And that's genius. Like, it's devilish, but it's genius, because I'm like, now they can call you, text you, and keep telling you your score went up and it went down. It didn't do anything. It actually didn't do anything, but it has you in a panic mode. Like, why did my score go down? You log in. Oh, my score went up. I log in. it has you, they've trained you on how to sell to you. And now that they have millions of people, they're going to all these credit card places and saying, hey, I got 70 million people in your area that you can serve and sell to. How much are you going to pay Credit Karma to get access to my people? And then they make $1 million, $1 billion deals behind your back, all because you wanted a credit score that don't mean anything. So use the Equifax and the TransUnion information. And a tip you can use on Credit Karma is your reported date has nothing to do with your due date. And what Credit Karma will do, it'll say last date reported. That date is important so that, let's say you had a credit card bill and it was due on the 10th. So you paid it, it's on time, everything is good. And then by, say, the 25th of the same month, which is about 2 weeks later, you've used that card again. You ran it back up, you bought some gas, you went out to eat or whatever. It's going to report on the 25th what that balance is on that date. So that 10th date, we can't even see you made a payment because you spent the money again by the time it hit your credit report. So you're only allowed on any credit card to use 30% of the available given balance. If you go $1 over, your score drops based on usage. So it's not that you're late, it's that you're using too much. Credit is not supposed to be used to the max. So your score is calculated based off of usage. So how defeating is that when you see your score is not moving? It's probably because there's that 2-week gap on credit cards in particular that it never looks like you're paying your balance down, and they consider that a credit risk because you stay either with a balance or maxed out. Or you're maxed out, they don't even want to deal with you because they're like, okay, as soon as this person loses the job, we ain't gonna get this money. That's why your score comes down. A credit score, a FICO score, is based on the likelihood of filing a bankruptcy. That's the only reason that they have it. And it was a system that was put together to protect business owners, not us. Okay? Anybody else have a question? Okay. Okay. So what happens is once they close an account, I don't know if you guys ever noticed, it has a scoring system. A 1 means that it's current, 3, you're 30 days later, or 4, 6 days, like it has an assignment to it. A 7, it'll change the code. It'll show you that it's these codes that tell you where you stand. So once something is closed off in a 9, it's a 9. They've taken all the points they're gonna take. You paying it off is not gonna make it better or worse. It's because it's in the 9 status, which is the collection status. So for us, yes, it's good that you paid it off because if you work at a credit union with them, they just want to see that you went back and paid it in most cases. So it's the relationship that it looks like, okay, yes, she went through something, but she went back and paid it. A credit union looks on that favorably. From a credit score perspective, as long as that is a 9, it's a 9. Having a 0 balance 9 takes it out of the equation for your overall debt, so there's a positivity there, but it's not really going to restore your points back. So I tell people, if you have something bad, then we need to open up another account, which can be a small account, and then having a new account paid on time will offset the points you lost on the old one. We focused on the past. I need you to focus on the future. So if you've seen the commercials for Self on TV where they say you pay yourself and it's $25 a month and so forth, you can get 30, 40 points. So you could have had something that was a repossession and a charge off and get 2 credit builders and get 60, 80 points back off of $50 a month versus fighting over the $6,000 that repossession is trying to charge you. It's a game. It's a balance game. So you can get 2 little credit cards that are secured credit cards through your credit union. Anything that says credit builder through your credit union is amazing. And restore those points with them little cards and outweigh the points that you lost on that auto. And we always worried about the auto. They done wrote that off and they're fine. They'll be all right. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. Like, I wouldn't even lose sleep. Like you're literally trying to break your neck to pay on something where if you're making a payment arrangement and you're spending $100 or $200, you could spend $50 with a self-help account, and your cousin can give you an authorized user on a Cap One card, and you don't use it, and you get your points right back, like it never happened. Now we can see that you had a repossession, but from a score perspective, we won't see it. You can go right back to a 650 or higher with having new pieces. The old stuff happened. Once them points are gone and you're in a 9, they're gone. It don't get any worse. You don't just keep losing points because you haven't paid it back. The points are gone. If they were going to take 100 points, they took the 100 points, it's over. You can go, I tell people, you can hit lotto, pay everything off, your score is not going to move because you went in the past and paid off old debt. It's the new stuff that's open, that's current and on time, that's going to keep your score generating. So there's a lot of people that don't have any credit, don't have a score. It's the same thing. The past is past. They'll be all right. Okay? So hopefully this was helpful. Ask Cousin Kira is a page where you literally can schedule a phone call or a Zoom call, and we can sit and spend, and I put a block of 15 minutes. It always runs over, which is fine. And I don't charge anything. I don't charge anything. I don't charge anything. And we can have a discussion about what's going on with your credit, and if I have an answer and I'm really good with it, I'll just tell you so that you can fix it. Okay? And look, I love you all. I'm literally about to run so that I can get some money for the state of North Carolina so that y'all can get free classes. Cybersecurity is the next thing. So if somebody wants a free certificate, we're working on Shaw. We're working on some of these schools to give you free training so that you can get those base jobs started at $100,000. Everyone does not have to have a degree. You can have a certificate. So I would love to stay because I want to hear what everyone has to say. So hopefully you recorded it and I'm going to catch it. But there's money out here in the state if you look for it. And if you don't look for it, I think my page is Ask Cousin Kira on Facebook and stuff. I'm posting it. So if you follow me on social media, every time something's free, I'm posting it. He's posting it. We're posting it to make sure. And having these functions, thank you so much. What happened now? Absolutely, absolutely. And your former military, security clearance, my partner, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. He doesn't have enough help. He works for Homeland Security. Military people are sought after because you can get that security clearance. It's a certificate, and you start at 100. They just want the certificate. And they'll give you that free too. See? And the program is usually 3 to 4 months to, at a normal pace. It's not much. Google has one you can take at your own pace for free. Those jobs start around 60 or 70, and Google has that open and free now. So there's stuff out there. So I'm trying to get information out there. So that when I tell you I worked 13 hours yesterday and probably won't be finished until about 10 o'clock tonight, it's because there's grant money out there. Biden-Harris approved. I think the next set of grants coming out is $250 billion for the digital divide for underserved areas. And they're giving away $12 million at a pop for these HBCUs to go into the community. We're giving people free laptops, iPads, and the internet service is free. So whatever internet bill, I'm sick of Spectrum. Spectrum went up. I was like, why is my bill $200? It was $130. Like, oh, the special is over. So what I'll do, I will turn it off real quick until you have to wait 30, this is the trick, you have to wait 30 days to be considered a new person again. I got AT&T, so I will AT&T it for 30 days, then go right back down to my $99 bill because I cannot in my mind just give you money because you said my special is over. Well, my contract is over. Ring and I had a great relationship. They made me mad. Turn it off. Next thing you know, when they miss that money, we miss you. And they send you a little thing. I do that all the time. Serious right now, the longer you wait, because I love music, but I got Apple Music. So I'm like, I can't pay $9.99 here and all of a sudden it went from $27, they offered me $6 a month. It's the same service. So why was you trying to charge me $27? Right. But it's now they're all the way down to $6. And one day I might be like, you know what, I kind of missed that show. I might get it for $6. I'm not paying $27. Turn it off. It was free when you got the car, great. And they'll keep calling you because they want your money. They will negotiate when you leave. Sometimes we got to leave to let them know. Spectrum has a lockdown, so it's a little harder, but my phone is a modem. I get internet. I'd rather give it to them because there's always internet. T-Mobile has a hotspot. It's cheaper than that. I'll, in a heartbeat, turn Spectrum off and look at Netflix and keep it moving. And then when they miss you, they start sending you all the, now you're a new person again. I'm a new person every year. So you guys enjoy, and I will see you all. And thank you so, so much. And I'm serious, like I need some estate planning and everything, so.
Come on, can y'all clap your hands for Cousin Kira? Thank you. Listen, since we got information about cars and marriage and ministry, do y'all have any questions before we keep going? No? Okay, cool. So we talked about cars. Let's talk about our minds. Why is mental health so important? And here to talk about mental health, all the way from Pivotal Breakthrough in the building. Come on, y'all make some noise of Miss Shanice Stevenson in the room. Shanice, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Tell the people who you are and all things in mental health.
Sure. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shanice Stephenson. I am the founder. It's okay. Everyone does that. I am the founder and owner of Pivotal Breakthrough Counseling Services. I am also the clinical director of a service called My Health that actually assists individuals that have severe mental illness. So, severe mental illness is anything that is related to really severe depression. It's a lot of psychosis or schizophrenia, also personality disorder, so that's like your borderline personality. We also have things like antisocial personality disorder, which was formerly known as a psychopath or a sociopath, but we don't call people those names anymore. So we use antisocial personality disorder, and we also do things with people that have bipolar disorder. So there's a large range of things that I do daily, and mental health is really important. One of the things that I notice most in the mental health field is that we are a little bit uneducated. Oftentimes we think that we have a lot of education about it, but we really don't, and it starts from our home. So we may see certain behaviors and we think that that's just a child being insubordinate, that's a child that's not listening, that's a child with ADHD. And one of the things that I even talked about with someone yesterday was the fact that the community that we look like, we are the ones that are targeted the most when it comes to mental health issues, and then we are misdiagnosed. So little African American girls, little African American boys, especially African American males, for a very long time, they were diagnosed with bipolar disorder just because. So not a conduct disorder, not an intermittent explosive disorder, but bipolar disorder. And to this day, we still have people that are psychiatrists that every time someone goes into the hospital and they have one of those severe mental illnesses, they say, okay, well, they just have bipolar disorder. Or it was a trend once in a while where people kept saying, oh, well, I'm just bipolar. Bipolar is more than just having ups and downs. Like, there's a whole range of things that classifies someone that way. So a lot of this education is going to have to start at home, but also realizing, like, I know we want to, especially in the old times, want to pray things away, and that is great. And that's wonderful, and we want to speak life, and we want to call things into existence, and we want to cast down things, and we want to cast it into the sea and tell that mountain to move over here and there, and all of that is great. And also, we have to have a knowledge base about mental health. I do a lot of speaking engagements about mental health and faith, and one of the most interesting things is more recently, my pastor had mentioned that it's interesting how we put mental health and faith together. And the biggest thing is that we don't actually need to add anything to God because he doesn't need anything extra. So be careful how we say, oh, mental health and faith, because God is just the number one source. So if we have him, then we don't necessarily have to feel like, oh, well, I need all these other things. But what I am here to say is that you may not see it plain as day in the Bible of mental health, but let's not be confused. There are a lot of people that have experienced those things, and they didn't talk about a mental health therapist that like helped somebody. But it didn't mean that Elijah didn't say very clearly that I'm no better than my ancestors, kill me, right? He wanted to kill himself, which is passive suicide. That goes with mental health. The angel tried to get him up, wanted him to eat, and he said he's no better. He might as well just die. They don't talk about that thorn that's in the side that Paul talked about. They didn't say anything about if that was spiritual. They didn't say if that was mental. They didn't say what kind of thing that was, but he wanted it removed. He pleaded 3 times about that, and God said, no, I'm not going to remove it because in your weakness is my strength. So it's those things, like when we're feeling anxious, yes, it says be anxious for nothing and everything with prayer and supplication. With thanksgiving, let your request be made known to God. So there are a lot of things that we go through on a day-to-day basis, but how many times are we actually taking these things that we know, we're reading it in the Bible or whatever we're doing with it, talking to somebody, but are we actually talking to people that know the field? Are we getting everything that we actually need? Because if I told you all right now, do me a favor, I want everyone to do me a favor, close your eyes for a second. And I want you to just take a deep breath in for 4, and I'm going to count it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold that for 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release that for 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I bet you haven't done that in the last 10 days. Let me give some grace, because that's what we do as therapists. I bet you haven't done it in the last 7 days, which is just 1 week. I bet you didn't do that yesterday. But there is something about when you breathe, when you took that breath in, and then you released it, your shoulders went down. And you kind of want to do this, because you haven't done that, which tells me that you're probably really tense, because there's a lot that is going on. But we just kind of go through life because we have families, right? We have bills, like she talked about. We are swimming in a lot of things that need to be paid. So we don't have time to just sit back and relax for a second. The interesting thing is we have, excluding children, 1, 2, 3 males in here. That is, especially black males, they do not go to therapy. They do not go. And people ask me all the time, why don't they go? I look at them and I say, I don't know. Why don't they go? And I'm going to ask, do you go to therapy? Do you go to therapy? Sir, do you go to therapy? So you have someone who has went, someone that currently goes, and someone that doesn't go. Guess what? That's 1 in 3. Just like that. Look how easy that was. Now, number of hands, because there's more women in here, how many women have went to therapy or currently go to therapy? That number is greater. And it's always greater, especially in the African American community, because a lot of times we are going to therapy to help to fix the people who don't go to therapy. Because they won't go, now I gotta go. Just to find out that I'm gonna be disappointed when I try to set the boundaries and they don't wanna hear it. They don't wanna hear the boundaries, because one of the biggest things in the African American family is you're being disrespectful because I set boundaries. Or you might hear the conversation of, something's wrong with that person. They're acting strange. It's probably that stuff. They need to go to church. They probably do. They probably need to go to church. And also, the thing is, you're not going to therapy. So therefore, it leaves people in a space where things still feel tense. Things are still swept under the rug. Just because you can preach and pray doesn't mean you don't need therapy. Just because you preach and pray doesn't mean you don't need therapy. Just because you can speak in tongues does not mean you don't need therapy. because all of that is an adornment. That's great. However, think about all the people that did have something to say, all the healers that were in the Bible, all the people that had something to say that weren't Jesus himself. Those are people that came in as a different type of force that provided some type of education to somebody else so that they can get back. But the biggest issue is if we don't think that we have a problem, we're not going to go. And sometimes it's not that we don't think we have a problem, it's just not big enough to go. Something that I heard from a male perspective is, I don't want to go to therapy because I don't need to be told what to do. I don't want a woman therapist because she wants to act like my mother. So that tells me everything I need to know. You have mother wounds. Because what people love to talk about is how women have daddy issues, but nobody wants to talk about the mother wounds that males have. And because of that, they're not going to go, because what happens is they have to look at themselves, because sometimes mothers, not always because they want to, but especially single mothers, that have sons, there's this really interesting thing that they do where they coddle their children. They coddle their sons and they put their daughters away. They want them to be the ones that are supposed to take on all the responsibility. They're supposed to know what to do while they soothe their son, because what they're missing is that male factor that was not there. So now a son has to grow up and be the protector, and they have to do all these things that their father should have been in the place of doing. And now they may grow up and they hate not just their mother, but they hate their sister, and they hate their aunt, and they hate their cousins. And now we got a world full of hate. And now they choose something different, or they cheat. The infidelity is high. Or they don't know how to be in spaces where they know how to interact with the person they made a child with, because we need help as a whole. So all these things are occurring and all these things are happening, and they're still saying, no, I'm good on that. No, I don't need that. I don't need nobody to be my mom. Yes, you do, son. You do. You need somebody for that because you lack the direction. You didn't have a chance to actually be a son. So you actually do need that direction from somebody. You need someone higher than yourself, and that's where we do the integration of mental health and faith, because there's that part that says there's only so many things that I can give you. Take me as mother out of the picture, but like, you need a mother and you need a father. But the best thing is, even when there was an absence of a physical father, we have a spiritual father. That because of that, we didn't lack anything that we needed. So as people are trying to operate in this world, you have to put down this idea that you don't need it, because you do. And if we don't know what we need, we have to be open to the idea that, hey, this is just not like me. African American women, we don't necessarily close the blinds. We don't shut the lights off. We don't lay in bed all day because we can't. And it's not just African American women, it's people of color. We don't do that. Our depression looks so much different. It is making this list and get everything done. It is being in a space where bills get behind, but we're getting 2 and 3 jobs trying to make ends meet. It is our anger towards things, or irritability. It is the, okay, well, instead of just saying, you know what, I need help, let me go get another degree. That makes it all better. Let me go start something new. Let me open a business. Let me get an LLC. All that's great until you stop doing it, and it only lasts 2 months. It's like, why are we opening up all these things and doing all these things to prove a point when what you need is therapy, so that you can stop running yourself to death? It says peace be still for a reason. You're doing way too much thinking you can, because you really don't want to sit with the fact that you can't do it all. And the reality is, just because you can do it all, who are you trying to prove that point to? We have historically lived in a space where we were able to do things, but if we go back in all the years, we haven't been honored correctly for the things that we have done. It's been taken from us. It has been given to someone else, or we just have not been highlighted for those things. So then we come up to this point in time, and what we see is something totally different. Now we want to keep doing all these things because we're trying to prove a point. So I don't get mad when we take our money and our things and we really say, oh, well, I want to do all of these things. Okay, that's great. So because you're doing all these things, can you tell me what you haven't done? What did you stop doing because you wanted to pick up something else? And why does this thing matter but not this other thing? I'm not mad when we take money that we have that we haven't reached in a long time and I say, oh, okay. Well, I'm not mad that you're doing that you're buying a house. I'm not mad that, people spend all of their money on the glitz and the glam and whatever it is. Well, the problem is if you promised us 40 acres and a mule and we never got it, then I understand why people are splurging on things because it was ours to begin with. I'm not mad at that. But I am mad at the fact when we don't actually take our mental health serious, and not just our own, but other people. We don't realize how much of an effect we have on other people when we do things that are not beneficial to them, but it benefits only ourselves. And that's something I see in this community a lot. As long as it benefits us, we're good until we realize that it only took one thing between that person's life or death. But see, then you're playing God, and you can't do that. So we have a long way to really go. And one of the things that I have been reading recently was in 2 Peter. And there's a small bit, and I'm paraphrasing here, where it talks about the trials and the tribulations that we face presently. And what we don't realize is that there is an inheritance that is ours, but it's in the future. But what happens is because we see the now and we see things that are a struggle or a trial or hard, we give up, but we miss the part where it says that inheritance, it cannot be shaken. It cannot be removed. It can't be taken from us because it was promised to us from a God. So if we could just wait, if we could just hold on, if we could just get the help that we need, then we would. Now, another barrier is that we don't know where to start. Some people, they say they want a therapist, but they don't want the ride that comes along with a therapist. Because I tell people I'm not a therapist. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to lean in and I'm going to ask you some questions. Because one of the things we say often is, well, you tell me all these things that happen and then you say it is what it is. And I lean in and I say, well, is it? Because who told you to say that? That is literally based off the fact that I'm telling you something and I know that I have already perceived in my mind that nothing better is going to come out of that, but that's not true. So I have to challenge you on these ideas because a lot of our ideas come from our core beliefs, and our core beliefs come from our parents and our grandparents who also did not have the liberty to speak and to say things, so they had to just go with it. You don't have to go with the things, but what I am going to do is if you ever sit in my chair, I'm going to challenge you. If you ever sit on my couch, what I'm going to tell you to do is I want you to sit with that because oftentimes we run. It may not be physically running, but it is opening that business that you didn't need. It is putting on, I got it going on myself, your lashes and everything else, right? It's putting these things on. It's putting on this, I'm just this very hardcore man. No, you're not. You're probably actually one of the softest ones. But you also don't have to be. Again, in our weakness is God's strength, but we're so scared to let go of these things because of what we told ourselves it would be, and that's not true. So I challenge each person to really take an evaluation of your life. Where exactly are you in all elements? And we don't know what all elements are. That means spiritually, where are you? Physically, emotionally, financially, socially, physiologically, where are you? And if any area is less than a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, then you have work to do because we holistically are made. So we are made whole when all of these areas balance out. If one area for any second is off, then it starts to shift the other areas. One is going to try to work harder until we start to have resentment for that area. So let's say in our area of physicality, we're okay. Our health is in check. Maybe we're at an 8. But guess what? It's something about emotional that always gets shaken. And the minute that we go underneath 5 or 5 and under, the first thing that typically goes is our spirituality. Well, I'm not coming to church. I'm not going. Not paying my tithes. I'm not. The preacher lied. We always take that element first instead, and then all the other areas have to work harder. Now we're 2 areas down. So our emotions are below a 5. We just knocked out spirituality, so that's at a 0. Now all these 3 or 4 other areas have to work hard. Well, now socially, I don't want to be bothered. I'm going to isolate myself. Well, there's another area. And now because I'm isolating myself, I'm not taking care of myself. So my 8 of physicality has now went down below 5. Now we got 2 areas left, and then we wonder why it takes so long for us to get back up, because we are unbalanced. And then we start engaging in things that don't make sense. Everything looks very glossy. Oh, I'm going back to the world. You're not made for the world, so you can't go back to the world. You weren't made for those things. You were made in God's image. And I tell people, you moving all fast. Even God rested. He took that time on the mount by himself. He took that time under a tree by himself. He even rested in a boat while they were doing all that up there, and he was scared looking out. Exactly. But here we are rushing, trying to get something done, going absolutely nowhere. So you really have to ask yourself, what exactly am I doing it for? Because you giving the devil all the time he needs, because the devil play for keeps. So you have to really decide, okay, where am I right now? And if I'm not satisfied with myself, then where is my satisfaction? And if you're getting your satisfaction from something that's other than God himself, then you're still wrong. And it's sometimes hard to find a therapist because we're looking for therapists who can match what we need. And I'm going to tell you, there is a small number of African American therapists still, even though we have so many, it's still small compared to the number of other races of therapists. And then if you want a woman therapist, that goes down. If you want a black male therapist, it's even smaller, because everybody wants a black therapist, including the people that don't look like us. They want a black male therapist, including the people that don't look like us. So it makes the chances slimmer to get a black male therapist. So then you have to think about, if you're a person of faith, there are very, very few of us. The number is really small. So even if you're looking for one, what are you doing in your spare time that is building upon that? Because you can ask for what you need, and it can be there. It just depends on what you're going to do out of it. I tell people, this is 1 hour of your time. It's 24 hours in a day. This is only 1 hour. And if you think I can make miracles come out of that, I can't. However, if you take the small things from each session and you start doing them, then there is going to be some progress. I tell people, I don't give you homework, I give you thought work, because I'm not a teacher. I give you something to think about between now and then. And anytime you think you're not going to do an assignment outside of therapy, guess what? Now it's going to be really awkward for you, because I'm going to make you do it right in the session. And I'm going to watch you. I'm going to look dead at you while you do it. And then we're going to talk about it and process it, because that's sometimes what we do in life too. We say that we're going to do something, and it sounds good and looks good, and in that moment it's great until the very next moment. And then life starts happening, and then we don't want to do it, and then we give up, and then we're at the same standstill. And then you say, that dumb, stupid therapist lady told me to do these things and it's not working. Is it not working, or you didn't put in the work? It's the same thing when you say you love Jesus but you don't read his word. It's the same thing when you say you love God, but you saw somebody over there and you did not do the things that highlight the Jesus in you. We are supposed to be minimized so he can be magnified and maximized, but we don't do that. So this is not just something that is affecting you. It's affecting everything around you. It's affecting who God told you to be. Because his promises were already written for you. But if you can't for 1 second even do those things, then how are you going to continue to ask God for something else? Thank you. Exactly. So there are so many aspects to this because even if you don't know where to start, you got to open your mouth and say something's wrong. But if you keep trying to pretend like it's all good, I got it, then that's also saying that you're not willing to meet the person that God said, hey, this person is supposed to be here to help you. You're not going to do that. Thank you for letting me use you. You're not going to be able to do that because every person has somebody that walked with them in some type of way, whether it was physically, whether it was mentally, there was somebody there. But what happens is we give up so fast when we don't have that instant gratification. Y'all remember when they thought Lazarus was dead? Oh my God, if they could turn that place out, I'm sure they actually would. Okay? God being who he is. Lazarus is not dead, y'all. He is asleep. But what is our problem? We see something and we think something is over. But it's because we don't have that belief really in ourselves. So if I tell you that, hey, you're going through something, but it's attached to the trauma that's associated with it, then the problem is that you don't want to believe that because then it means that, oh, well, there's something that's actually more that's happening. Trauma is a lot, and I tell people they think this job is easy until you have to listen to people's trauma every day that you can't tell nobody else for the rest of your life. Because I'm indebted to this because this is what God chose me for. I didn't choose this. So even anytime I try to run from this, he always brought me back, right back to this. Anytime I said, no, I'm going to go do something else. No, I'm going to go do something else. Every time I try to just say something, here go God speaking through me. So every time I want to do that, we keep trying to run from things. But what we have to realize is the running has already happened. Eventually, you have to get tired of running. You have to stop somewhere because if you're stopping, then what you're really saying is, God, here I am. Despite the situation, despite the trauma, despite the hurt, despite what you don't understand, because now you're saying, Lord, what do I have to do? How do I surrender? How do I get myself to the place of you using me? Forget my plans. What are your actual plans? And sometimes that plan involves going in, sitting down and saying, you know what? I got to tell the truth in this session. Because if you are literally going to pay me to just lie, you might as well go make a children's book. Right. Do that there. But if you actually want to get through things, then you have to start with your honesty. You have to start where, hey, this thing happened, and also this is the part that I played, because we want to keep that separate. We want to keep that separate and not realizing that, no, we had a part in that. Because before we became into the spiritual part of who we are, we were very much worldly. And there are times where people will get to us and we say, okay, look, try Jesus, don't try me. So we want to sometimes get to that point. But the reality is, you trying that person doesn't make your trauma go away. It doesn't mean that you experience less in your childhood. I tell people that trauma comes from two things, our relationships and our childhood, and we've all had both of those. So if a person tells me they have not experienced any trauma in their life, they are a lie, because we've all had those things. Now, the thing is, anything you don't address, it will show up. And I tell therapists, anything that you don't address as a therapist, it will show up on your couch. So now you got to face it. You're trying to deal with your own stuff and their stuff. So, number one, if you need a therapist, you have to ask yourself, am I ready to hear the truth that even if my ears can't hear it, my eyes can't see it, I'm still going to take the walk and do it? The second thing is when you're looking for a therapist, what type of therapist are you actually looking for? Are you looking for a woman therapist, a male therapist, a Christian-based therapist, someone that just uses Christian-based principles? There is a difference. Are you looking for a coach who, i.e., is not a therapist? They are not a therapist. They do not have the skills and the trainings and the things that we're doing. Are you looking for pastoral counseling, which means that that person who is a therapist is probably not a pastor? So draw the line there. And that's okay if that's what you're looking for, but you have to know exactly what you're looking for and ask those questions. If you're not asking, then you're not ready. It means that you're willing to just decide on this because this is comfortable. And if you're looking for something comfortable, that means you're not looking to grow, because we don't grow in our comfortableness, we grow in our uncomfortableness. And then you have to ask yourself if you are dedicated to the process, because the minute that you decide that you're not, then you're gonna go back to the same things that you used to do. I don't care how hard it gets, I don't care how tough it is. If you come to therapy and you say you have nothing to talk about, then you're already lying to yourself. There's always something to talk about. So start with these things. I know a big thing for people is insurance. It has always been an issue for a lot of people, and there are programs that can help with that. Some people do a sliding scale, some people have, and it just depends on who the person is. You can get 12 sessions with solution-focused brief therapy, is exactly what it sounds like. We are finding solutions to the things that you have going on, and it's about 12 to 16 sessions. Now, if you have trauma, you're not going to do no solution-focused brief therapy. That does not do anything. That's not helpful. If you have something very specific, then that will be helpful. Other things is with insurance, like I said, some people have sliding scales. A lot of times during like the end of the year, people have pro bono services. You cannot be afraid to ask if someone will do pro bono, because they will. Right now, therapy costs a lot. I tell people very honestly, it's $200 for an intake, and it's $175 for a 60-minute session. That is a lot of money. She just talked about all these things we have to pay for, and yes, that does add up. But when people can't pay for that, or they have insurance that people don't take, Open Path Collective is a very good service that allows people to pay $30 to $70. And it's actually based off of a one-time fee that you pay that I believe is $50 or $60, like an application. And from there, they ask you a few questions. And if you are in a certain range, especially like salary-wise, that's probably under $50,000 or less, then you definitely qualify for it. But it's not just money. It's also if your insurance is not taken in an area that you live in, but you need therapy. So that is a service that's very helpful. Also, different schools like Central, I went to Central, so of course I know about this. They have student counselors as well. So they may do a $30 or less. They have student counselors. There are interns at certain places that they cannot charge for services. So they also can provide counseling services. Do not let anything be a barrier if you need mental health. If you need it, then that is something to do. And why do I say that? Because guess what? The minute we walk out that door, you can best believe something is going on. Someone has just had a psychotic break, and you could be in the midst of that. The world is in such a fragile place, and y'all have not even seen anything yet. These people are going to be in the streets losing their minds, and if you haven't seen it, then you should wake up. So making sure that you yourself, that you are mentally prepared, that you have the shield of God, that you are protected and covered, those are all important things. And you have to really start saying, I cannot do this by myself. And if you can't do it by yourself, then get someone that can help you. A friend is good, that's fine, but they don't have all the skills that you would need, so you have to get a professional to do that. Does anyone have questions? Open Path Collective. Collective. Mhm.
is so high. I'm sorry. The therapist turnover rate seems to be so high unless you have your own practice or a stable place to work. The therapists need therapy. So it's
Yeah.
help. You know, it's hard to, for me personally, I'm not currently in therapy because I've had bad experiences with therapy. And you go, you do an intake, and you see a person for a few weeks, and then you go, and they don't even inform you that you're going to see somebody else the next week. And it's like, well, I just told her all my trauma. I don't want to go do that again. So what would you suggest as far as when you have to go through reliving it with the situation with therapists these days?
Yeah, I think that's really good because right now the world is such in a place where therapists are burnt out. And honestly, we do this job, but the money can never take the place of everything we hear. Just like you experience trauma, the amount of trauma I have to hear every day, it's exhausting, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And to answer your question, something like that, we can't necessarily help the turnover rate in some agencies because it comes down to what the agency decides. So some people are leaving because they are noticing that they can do the same job but get paid more. And I couldn't even tell you how much therapists make because it's honestly unbelievable. But there's levels to it. We have community-based therapy, which is the lowest low. That's when you're a new therapist in the game. You kind of just have to see anybody, take anyone, but it doesn't feel good when you're a therapist, you're new in the field, and they're having you work with someone with DID, which is dissociative identity disorder, which was formerly known as multiple personalities. You have no idea how to even help that person. So sometimes people get in a space where they're like, I don't get paid enough to do this. This is outside of my scope, which means before you get your license good, they're snatched from you because you're doing harm. So sometimes it's that why people leave. Then you have after community-based mental health, you have group practice, private practice, and then you can own your own private practice or group practice. I did all of the above. And what I've learned from this experience is sometimes the circumstances are just unfortunate. What I will say is take your time and give yourself grace. It's our job to track what you're saying and then to provide the next therapist with what you need. I have told people, because I've had to tell people, hey, this is our last session, this is what I'm doing. And that's something that happened with my own practice because I went back to school, to work on a PhD, and it just got to the point where it's so much, I cannot give to my clients what they need, but I'm willing to connect them with someone that I know can do the job. And I want to connect them with someone that has the same mentality as me, and I always tell them, if by chance this person doesn't do well by you, you contact me, even if that means, okay, our session's at 8 p.m., then I guess it's at 8 p.m. That's just what it is, because I'm not going to turn you over in hands that you don't feel like is helpful. But also, I know I can't save everybody either, because that's not my job. We already had somebody to come and save everybody, so I can't do that for you. So that's the boundary that I draw. But even if you have to tell your trauma over to somebody, then in some of the trauma work that you had, some of that work should have stuck. If it didn't, that tells me a lot about the therapist. And the thing is, there's a difference between being trauma-informed as a therapy and being a trauma therapist. Those things are different. Trauma-informed is very surface level, but there's EMDR, there is CPT. These are all trauma-based therapies. Like, if you're not doing those, then again, you have to really know what you're looking for or ask those questions and give yourself grace when you're going through this. Being able to tell someone, hey, this is something that I've shared with someone already. And now you're asking me these same questions again. This is a lot for me. Say that so that people know how to handle you, because if not, they're gonna mishandle you. And some of it is just a lack of training. Some of it is people trying to rush to their own agendas. As a therapist, we don't have an agenda. We should not. It's you, whatever you need at that time. Whatever you need, I'm supposed to flow with you. Not, okay, well, let me prove that I'm a good therapist. No, my clientele speaks about me because I don't have to speak for myself anymore. So hopefully that answers your question.
I asked my client, I'm a beautician, and I asked my client yesterday, I said, who prays for the intercessors? And she said, thank God for the Holy Ghost.
I feel that. I always said once they learned that I'm really quiet when I go to my church, but once they learned there was a power behind my prayer, now they want me to pray all the time. I said, well, who's going to pray for me? Who's going to pray for me? They're like, Shanice, can you pray today? Shanice, can you pray today? Who's going to pray for me now? So, of course, it's like I don't say no. I said, okay. But, yeah, I definitely believe that and feel that.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Listen, there are snacks, because I know that was a lot. So if y'all need some refreshments in the meantime, there are snacks for them on the table, so please help yourself. Thank you for that. That was heavy. That was real heavy. I have to be obedient, so I'm going to yield to the prophet. Any comments, anything you need to release? Amen. Thank you for what you do. It's needed. As a man going to therapy, it is needed. Finding the right therapist is important because we can't release to everybody.
Appreciate the fact that you said you're the one that leans in. You remind me of my therapist because I'm one of them runners. So to have people like you that are willing to lean in, it was like, okay, let's get to the root of the problem. I appreciate that. So if nobody else tells you today that you are appreciated, you are appreciated.
Amen. And really after that we can have a benediction, but I want to make sure everybody, yes.
Grabs onto you saying that, sometimes we try to cover the wounds or just picking up every bits of things instead of focusing on what we started. Is there some form of trauma trying to like run away from, the things that we are actually supposed to do? Or like, as a therapist, what is in the moment that we are trying to escape from? Is it emotional based, socially, or just trying to like run away from our trauma, or we're not trying to face our fear or something?
Honestly, it can be any or all of those things. Like, I would have to know a little bit of your story to know that I can say, hold on, go back to that. Because you said something, but I don't think you realize that you said it. So sometimes what happens is that we run away because we are a product of what we know. If you had someone who didn't deal with things and they swept things under the rug, that's also what you're gonna do. If you have someone where it happens a lot, we talk about our attachments. So we ultimately wanna have a secure attachment, but we have some attachment styles that are anxious avoidant. So I'm anxious about a situation. I want to be attached to someone, but the minute that I want to, I'm going to avoid the situation. And that usually comes from somewhere. So it could also be that we're preoccupied with something. Oftentimes a person will become anxious avoidant because they will almost like self-sabotage themselves instead of getting to the point where I know I could benefit from this relationship. If I tell myself for any instant that this isn't gonna work, I'm just gonna take myself out of the equation altogether. So there's actually different attachment styles that we have that either make us go towards something or actually to back away. It's the same thing with like our nervous system and how we respond to things. We have a fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So we're either going to fight it, and it doesn't mean it's physical fight. Sometimes it's in the words that we say, what we stand up for, what we'll do. Sometimes we'll flight, so we'll run away from the situation. Sometimes we'll freeze and do absolutely nothing, and fawn is literally to go down in a position and not move. So depending on what your background has been also goes to say, when I think I'm in not harm, perceived harm, I'm still gonna do that. You're gonna do one of those four things.
And when you when it comes to trauma, when you're speaking to a therapist, you're reliving that trauma. You know, so those emotions, you know, not just spiritually or mentally, but it's also physically, you know, because I mean, the story that you're telling, you can feel it again, you know. So a lot of things that you've been through, you know, I know my story, you know, when I retell it, I can feel the wind, you know, I can feel the atmosphere, you know, and it resonates, and it doesn't just stop at that room, you know. It goes back to my sleeping pattern. It goes back to my dreams, you know. So reliving trauma, it takes you to an emotional state to where, you know, your spirit is open, you know, and that's why you have to have a good therapist, you know. And having a good therapist is someone who's sympathetic and empathetic to your to your situation. I know, and my wife can contest. I went through therapy for 12 years, and for I think about 4 of those years I had the same therapist. And when it was time for me to switch, you know, it was very hard on me. You know, for the simple fact is, I went through like 6 other therapists in a matter of 2-3 months because they were very cold, you know, and you have to find somebody who's receptive to what you went through. And being in the military, you know, everybody couldn't understand, you know, what I went through. You know, so I had to find someone who was receptive of what I went through. So I had to find somebody who'd been through, you know, or who spoke to somebody who experienced what I've been through. Because if you don't, that's just like if someone had a divorce, you know, it's hard for them to tell somebody to stay married. That's right. You know, so you have to talk to someone who's has the experience to tackle, you know, your trauma.
Yeah, for sure. And I always tell people that we don't actually graduate from therapy. We graduate from our therapist, because you can have somebody for 4-5 years, and sometimes we get accustomed to it now just feeling like this conversation, I'm not really getting anything, I'm just here. Yeah. And anytime you get to that point where it feels like, oh, I'm just talking to my friend, or I tell people, if you ever get to the point where you say, oh, Miss Shanice, we should hang out, or man, if you weren't my therapist, we would go to brunch. It's time to go. Because that's how I know that there is this much that I've done with you, and I've seen the growth. And sometimes we have to move people along because they're not ready, or they think they're not. But the reality is, I'm going to do more detriment and harm to you if I continue to allow you to just be here when you probably need something else. And a trauma therapist should know how to close those sessions, because they do understand that every time you say something else, there is a physical experience with that. And that's why we always ask those questions like, how do you feel that physically? What is that like for you mentally, emotionally? Because we can't just leave you open before you leave. When I do trauma therapy, so EMDR, I always tell people after that experience, not a lot of talking in that, but that's because I'm getting all the physical sensations. They're coming from the root all the way up. So I tell people, if you want this therapy, you're not going back to work today. You're going to go home, eat a really big, healthy meal, like hefty meal, drink a lot of water, and you're gonna lay down. Because if not, I don't know if your trauma was related to a car accident, you get in a car, and then here we are, and now this is ×2 for you. No, I can't put you back in that harmful situation. So whether you need to sit here for an extra hour, or you need to go home, but you're not working today.
That's good. Thank you. So we're gonna move to something a little lighter. Amen. Amen. Listen, and before they leave, I will make sure you guys get all their contact information as well. So we talked about marriage and ministry. We talked about buying cars and credit. We talked about our mental health. So now we're gonna talk about something fun. Y'all ready? We're gonna talk about buying a house. We're gonna talk about what it means to rent versus buying a house and all those things. So here, our very own. She's not gonna sing today. I did ask her to sing a little something. She said no. Amen. Amen. You know, hoping she's gonna give me just a little A and B selection. You know, amen. But she told me I asked her a real estate agent. not the praise and worship leader. So amen. But right here from very own. So Dreams Made Realty. Y'all make some noise, clap your hands for the very own Miss Samaya Best is in the building.
Hey everyone. I promise I won't be as deep as my sister, Julie. So I'm from Dreams Made Realty Group. We are a real estate brokerage. Our office is downtown Fayetteville, but we service anywhere within a 300-mile radius of Fayetteville. So we can service Charlotte, we can service Durham, Raleigh area. My office is very military location heavy, first-time home buyers, and also some luxury real estate as well. Question?
So,
Okay.
first question, we'll ask you. Everybody was flowing. So for you, Samaya, doing real estate. So how do I know when I'm ready to buy a house?
So first, you have to address or understand your current financial situation and what it is that you can handle. Like earlier, Ms. Cousin said, your buying power. So first, you have to get prepared to even enter the game, because depending on how the market is, you want to be able to compete. And it also depends on the timing that you enter the market as well, because pre-COVID or during COVID, real estate market was at its height. Like, people were buying houses for little to nothing. A little bit after COVID, yeah. I mean, it's not gonna be as easy, but it just depends on having your agent and making sure that they know how to navigate you through that, whatever the current market is. So first of all, you have to be transparent with yourself and understand what you really can't handle. Understand how much you can spend on a mortgage and things like that. So let's say if you can afford $1,500, but the house that you see is in the $300,000 range. Unless you got some down payment money, you might want to sit this one out. Or you can buy a house that's a little bit cheaper and stay in that one for a couple years, and then use that equity to put down on your other house that you're buying that's really your dream home. So understand, first of all, that your first house does not always have to be your dream house. And people always say, I don't know if I should buy right now. I don't know, the interest rates are this or that. Well, your rent is 100% interest. And you're paying your landlord's mortgage. So you have options where you can buy something that's a little bit cheaper than what you know you can afford. Then after a couple years, you can rent it out, use that income to supplement, your next move, or continue to do on. So first of all, you have to understand what you can afford. If you're married, understand that you have dual buying power, because you both don't have to be on the loan all the time. You can have one spouse be on the loan, and the other spouse, you wait, and you have more buying power because there's two separate credits, two separate incomes. So you can buy two houses for both of you guys. But also understand, what can you afford? Factor in that there's a possibility that your mortgage could go up after a certain amount of time. How much money do you need to get into the game? So in our market in this area, you probably need between like $5,000 to $10,000 liquid that you can look into your bank, because when you go to the bank, they want to look at you as an investment. So they want to know how much money you have. They want to know, can I trust you to give you this money? Because they want to give you the loan because they're going to sell the loan to a different mortgage agency and make their money back. But that secondary people won't buy your loan if you're not a good candidate. So you have to think in their minds. We know that when you come to rent, you can shuffle up, you can pay your rent. Probably ain't gonna have nothing in the bank after that, but that's fine. But when it comes to these businesses investing in you, they want to know that their investment is safe. So first of all, they're gonna want to see how much money you have in the bank, how much money do you have coming in. They want to see a consistent income for at least 2 years. You don't have to be on one job for 2 years, but it needs to be in the same industry, and you can't break employment for a certain amount of time. So they want to see that you can continually have income, and also that, lost my train of thought, that you'll be able to pay them back. down payment. It depends on the type of loan that you have. If you have a VA loan for those, any veterans, military, VA loan, 0 down. Whoop, whoop. FHA loan is like 3.5%. Conventional loan, it just depends on what you can afford. North Carolina also has the NC housing program where you can, it was $8,000, but now they raised it, I think it's $15,000 towards your closing costs. But what they don't tell you is you have to stay in that house for a certain amount of time or you have to pay that money back. So it's very important that your realtor or your lender is communicating the full totality of what you're getting into. Because yes, you can get that home loan and then they'll give you, let's say you walk away with closing $2,000, you have to put nothing down. But let's say you sell that house in 2 years, you're gonna have to pay them people back. So it's very important that we understand what it is that entails in the process and understand what you're getting yourself into.
Maya. But I like renting right now. I'm not even sure I'm ready to buy a house. If I rent and something breaks, all I gotta do is call a landlord.
Mm-hmm.
And if I buy the house, that means I'm responsible now for the maintenance on this house. So how do I know if I'm really ready?
So first of all, everybody, honestly, let's be honest, everybody is not going to be a homeowner. That's just 100% true. Everybody is not able and capable to maintain the value of a home. Some people it won't be a good investment for. But let's say if you say, okay, I want to build wealth for my family. I want to be able to have something where I can either sell it and get a little bit equity off of it, or I can pass it down to my children. You have to understand the long-term goal of the investment. So if you, let's say repairs, you don't want to have to worry about repairs. Where if you have homeowners insurance for a certain amount of dollars a month, you can have the same protection that you would have if you were in a lease. So, and that's what your landlord has. They have homeowners insurance, and they call their homeowners insurance and say, hey, the air conditioner went out. Hey, can you go over here? They pay that $100 deductible, and they go out there and they fixed it. So it's the same concept. You just have to have a mindset to play on the bigger scale. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, okay.
I like it. All right, so next question for you, Samaya. So I came prepared.
Okay.
So when it comes to this house situation, right? I see this house, but there's programs out here that says down payment assistance.
Mm-hmm.
How do I know if I really qualify for the down payment assistance? Or should I try to scrape money together, friends and family and everything else, and then twofold to that one when it comes to people gifting homes? Gifting a home. Say somebody died and left you the home.
Mm-hmm.
Inherited.
So you're asking if...
So talk first about down payment assistance.
Okay. So with down payment assistance, it's a certain program, and they have different ones. They have programs where you can get a certain amount of money towards whatever your closing expenses are, and then they have some where it's actually, and that would be considered a loan until a certain amount of time. And then there's also grants that you can get into, but it just depends. For one, it's going to depend on your credit, and then because there's some lenders that'll give you a loan up to, let's say if you have a 580 credit score, that's not going to automatically disqualify you from being able to purchase a home. But if you have more like a 640 credit score, that's when you get in the range where you can have more wiggle room on how you can navigate the housing market. So they want to see that you have at least like a 620 to start to say, okay, well, maybe I can trust them with that down payment assistance. So just understanding your credit is important, but it's not as important as people make it seem when it comes to a house now. But it is, let me come back. It is important because your credit, you might, if I have a 800 credit score, I might get a 4% interest rate. You have a 550 credit score, so you're going to get a 7% interest rate. So it is important, but it's not always the deciding factor for if you're going to get qualified for a loan. So it just depends on what your buying power is and what what they really look for is your credit, your debt to income ratio. So they want to see that your expenses is not matching how much you make. They want to see that you have some wiggle room in there to be able to afford to pay me. So it's very important that we talk to someone who is knowledgeable about credit, and your real estate agent should connect you with someone who is knowledgeable in those areas. And really your lender should be able to pull your credit and see, okay, you need to pay off this, you need to pay off this. And if you have a good lender, they can put you on a plan to where they check back in with you a certain amount of times to say, okay, well, it's been 6 months, how are things going, have you paid this off? So it's really important that when you choose your team, when you choose your realtor, when you choose your lender, that you choose people that are in it and they want to see you reach that goal, and they're not just trying to get a commission check. Because if they're trying to get a commission check, you come through the cycle, okay, let's see if we can go get you pre-approved. You can't get approved, okay, well, come back to me. No, I want a real estate agent that's going to say, hey, how are things going? Can I connect you with this person? Hey, I seen this resource. Maybe we can talk a little bit about this. So you have to be able to find the people that are really in it for your well-being, because in this business you can make a lot of money, but you get longevity when you take care of people. And it for you, yeah.
So talk about real estate agents, and because some people tend to feel like with the real estate agent they can treat it like a car. I can go shopping. I ask you to go find me a house for 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath for under 300,000. Right? You show me something and I don't like it, so then I just drop you. And then I go over here and or I try to cut out a middleman. I try to do everything myself. Is that good or bad?
Well, if the middleman cutting out a real estate agent would be like going to court without a lawyer. So I would not recommend that. I would not recommend doing that, because it's different tips and tricks that real estate agents can afford you when you're going through the market. So, and also it's ways to get around things, because just like I said earlier, they want you to have between, let's say, $5,000 to $10,000 for this area in the bank to be able to purchase a house. But let's say if you don't have to use that money, if you have a good real estate agent, let's say they can connect you with programs, or see if you can, if it's an investment property, can you get a cash advance from your bank to be able to pay that first down payment? You know, so it just depends on what it is that you're trying to do. So you always want to have someone who's representing you in your best interest. When you first meet a real estate agent, they're supposed to tell you what all of your options are. If you are represented, if you're unrepresented, what can I do for you? But most of the time, they kind of gets skipped over, because the person is worried about, are you going to be able to buy this month? Can I calculate you as to go towards my whatever expense for this month? But you have to align with someone whose core values is the same as yours. You want to make sure that they understand what your goal is. How can they help you? Ask them, interview them, because especially when you're selling, the house, sometimes people, they'll interview 5, 6 real estate agents before they pick a person, because they want to make sure, are you the best candidate to sell my house? How soon can you sell my house? What's your track record? So why don't we do the same when we're buying, especially our community? Because we feel like, oh my gosh, I just want to own a home, I want to be a homeowner, just post my picture on Facebook. But you could have saved money, or you could have walked away from the closing table with some money, but you chose the wrong real estate agent, you chose the wrong person, you didn't do your research. So if you're wanting to buy a house, I would say make sure that you start looking at people. You don't have to contact them, because if you contact them, they're going to call you. They're going to keep calling. But watch them from afar. Watch what do they post about their families. Did they help? Are they saying, oh, so glad this family was able to reach their goal? Or are they saying, just closed, $10,000 over asking? $10,000 over asking means that I got an extra $1,000 in my pocket too. So just understand their language and make sure that they align with you as a person. So I hope that answered the question.
So let's talk about selling. I want to sell a house, and I want to get the most bang for my buck. When it comes to selling a house, is it better to sell the house as is, Or is it better to do your own repairs, to cut down trees, and do all this thing to try to get the most for the money and to be able to sell it as fast as possible?
So it depends. I always recommend you have to get your house ready, show ready. Curb appeal is the biggest thing. Color, something as little as like the color of your walls can make your price drop down a couple $1,000s because it's not appealing to the people's eye. So it's very important that we make sure that curb appeal is up together, and being able to do small repairs like changing out light fixtures, doing making the paint different, things like that really do make an effect because people are gonna fall in love with it over the phone before they see it first. So they want to make sure that your pictures are marketed in the best way so that it can captivate the buyer that you want. So when you choose a real estate agent to sell your house, you first want to say, okay, what is your plan to sell my house? You're gonna put a sign in my yard and then you're gonna post it and they're gonna blast it out. Then what? What if you put my house on the market? What day are you gonna put up my house on the market? Because it's certain days that you put it on there that it's more traffic when you put it on. Also, what is gonna be your strategy for my house? What if, let's say, if the house has been on the market for a week and a half and we ain't had no offers, we ain't had no showing, we ain't had nothing? Are you just gonna wait until somebody comes to purchase, or are we gonna start doing things? Are we gonna start doing open houses? Are we gonna start knocking on the neighbor's door saying, hey, this house is available right here? When you're pricing my house, how are you coming up with your price? Because that's the key thing when selling a house. You don't want to list it too high, you don't want to list it too low. So your real estate agent should be able to know what's going on in the area, to do a comparative market analysis to let you know how much your house is going for. And let's say if the house down the street sold for $500,000. So you think your house automatically gonna sell for $500,000 because that's what's going on in the neighborhood. But what you don't know is they put in new countertops, they put in a new tub, they did all of these repairs and fixtures, they did all of these things. That house has a garage, mine don't. So you have to make sure that your real estate agent should be able to tell you, okay, roughly what should this be worth, and adjust that house to what yours is, and make sure that you get the right price for your house. And that can be very tricky because with certain loans, let's say if your house is $500,000 and you went on the contract for $505, they offered you more, but the appraiser comes and he says it's only worth $499. Then what? What are we gonna do in that situation? And how is the buyer willing to supplement the other costs, or are we gonna put it back on the market?
The other homes in the neighborhood where they sell, and if they were smaller and not in comparison, like my next door neighbor, his house is smaller and it sold for like $500,000, so baseline for if I was, just hypothetically, we ain't going nowhere, if I was to sell my house, if I was to sell my house, it will. If I was to sell my house, the baseline would be $500,000, because I know they sold their house for $500,000, but the other houses in the neighborhood that's compared, but that house is not in comparison to my house because it's a smaller house. It doesn't have the amenities of my house. But I know for a baseline that I wouldn't even put it on the market for less than that $500,000. But I would have to do our due diligence in seeing what the compared houses sold in that particular neighborhood. Amen. So when you go sell a house, it's just as much homework as when you go buy a house. Because you have to make sure, because like Samaya said, when you pay rent, you're paying 100% interest. You're paying their rent. But when you have a home, you're paying mortgage. So that's equity. So the longer you pay equity, the more it's going to go into your pocket when it comes to selling. So you have to make sure that you can get the most out of that selling that you can, because that money goes back into into your pocket when you go to buy a home, Because if I sell for 750, but then I buy a home for 575, then I pocket the rest of that money. Amen. But I pocket the rest of that money. So we have to be very, very mindful that it's not a let's go get this done type of thing. When you're making an investment, you want to make sure that you sit down with people who's like-minded. You're a real estate agent. Don't just don't go looking on the internet and find a real estate agent. Ask around, hey, who's a good real estate agent? Hey, who sold your house? Hey, how did they treat you? Because these are big dollar investments. So when you're dealing with big dollar investments, it takes homework. You're not when you go look for a home. I know when we want something, we want it now. But it takes time. It takes months in preparation. Go through the blueprints. Go through. If you're building a home, get it built the way you want it. Don't let people tell you how you want to build your home. So allow the process. The Bible says, let patience have its perfect works. So allow yourself to go through the process to let your investment play itself out. Amen.
And that's where the CMA comparative market analysis comes in, when you make sure that you're selling at the right rate, you're buying at the right rate as well. Okay. Any questions?
But now I got it. Amen. Thank you. So if now you'll get there's a lot of things that's now that doesn't make sense. So sometimes you'll have like, let's say if you have a home and you have a 2.75 interest rate, but they're telling you, we can get you this much money if you refinance. But if you refinance, your interest rate gonna be 5.7 or 6.75. So in the long run, they're throwing all this money that will go into your pocket now, but in the long run, it's not a great investment for you. But what they do is they try to sucker you in by giving you all this money, telling you all this money that you'll have now. But you have to look at, well, how is this investment? If I'm doing a 30-year loan, how is this investment going to benefit me in the long run? So you're telling me you'll give me $60,000 for equity that I already have in the home, but I'm going to lose $185,000 over the long run. So be very, very cognizant of all these mailings that you get about refinancing, about we can get you this, we can get you that. Really do your due diligence, because they're passing out money. But is it going to benefit you in the long run? Because the two most, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the two most popular loans is a 15-year and a 30-year term loan. So if you look at that 15-year and that 30-year and that interest rate, you have to make sure that over that term of the loan that it benefits you to do that. And I have no more 2 cents.
You had a question, come in.
I'm just gonna say, is it cheaper to keep her? If you have, like, let's say you have a house that's built in 1985, no renovations since you've been in it for 9 years. And the market where you are is exploding with house sales, $250,000 to $500,000 houses, and you owe under $100,000 on your house. How does that look? Would you say it's cheaper to keep it, maybe refinance and remodel, or would it be feasible to try to put it on the market, make some money, and try to find somewhere affordable to live?
So I think it just depends on the long term. Do you feel like the house is working for you right now, or would you want to have something that's more up to date and more? It depends on your. Okay. Well, I'll give you pros. If you sell the house, it's possible that you can find something that's more up to date, but you're gonna pay for it as well. So if you go and you buy, or you sell your house, then you take the equity, buy another house, you might be spending more money monthly. But just like you gain equity in the house you in now, you'll gain equity in the new house. So it just depends on if the transition makes sense for you and your family. So and there are things that you can start to do to upgrade. You could do small things like changing out lights fixtures or just doing small projects here and there that'll add to the value of your home. So when you get ready to sell it, you can do it for the maximum profit, because even though the market around you might be exploding, you might see houses selling for, let's say, $200,000 in your area, but those houses had renovations and things like that. So it just depends on if that makes sense for you and your family. But just like you build equity here, you can build equity there. You can refinance to get a lower monthly rate after a certain amount of time. So don't allow the fear of the price going up to kind of deter you from getting something better.
Awesome, awesome. Any other questions?
Okay. So, how do you feel about, okay, for instance, my husband and I, we sold a home in Arizona to come and live here. And military. And our realtor let us know that we know y'all spiritual, but you got too much Jesus stuff up in here when the people come. How do you feel about telling your clients to pull that stuff down so it can be just a neutral place, so that if they're not believers, it doesn't deter them from buying the house?
So I try to make them get in the mindset of the buyer. You stayed in this place, you have come to the conclusion that the time is up. You're making a decision to shift, and you're trying to make this home look appealing to whatever that buyer, the ideal buyer is. So you have to get in their mindset. So I always recommend taking down pictures of your personal self, putting minimal things on the wall, because you want somebody when they come in to say, oh, I can put this right here, I can do this like that, I can make this wall this way. So making sure that, because when you go into, let's say if you go into an apartment, and you go to see a model room in the apartment, a model unit, they're gonna have general just decorations to make it look appealing, like, oh, I can do mine like this, to give you an idea. So you have to come disconnected from your emotional ties with the house and get in the mindset of putting it on the market and selling it. So that's why you have a real estate agent to say, hey, let's think business here. Let's not think emotional. So having those conversations can be a little bit hard, and ultimately you don't have to do anything you don't have to take the things down. But understanding that and taking advice, because you hired me because I do this and you trust me. So if you trust me, trust that if you take them things down, I'll get you $10,000 more.
So, no, you're absolutely right. So we took down, you have like decor. That's what it was. It was no pictures because we were in a predominantly Caucasian place. And had we had our family photos up, she's like, that's a no-go. Because you guys are family.
Yep.
And they right then and there would probably say, we don't even want to look in here anymore.
Yeah.
So thank you.
That's
going to help.
Yeah, that's part of the reason of using a real estate agent, because a lot of times a buyer and a seller, they don't even know what the person look like. The only reason they know their name is because they had to sign the contract. So only the two real estate agents are communicating and advocating for their clients because of situations like that. Because you don't want to be biased and like, well, they black, I'm only get them $10,000 less because they might need it or whatever. But no, having a real estate agent is able to say, no, my client is taking this, you can take it or leave it, because if you don't buy it, somebody else will.
Now, and I don't know if this was correct, but our first time buying a home, we found out, and we found this out after the fact, that our realtor and the seller's realtor was in the same place.
The same office.
So we felt like that was, kind of a disservice to us, because, they knew everything. Yeah, they're going to talk to each other. And they knew everything, you know, that was being negotiated between us. So we actually had to take less than less at closing, you know, than was first promised, you know. And then we found that out after the fact that they worked in the same office, you know. So how does that go? Is that kind of like what they call a conflict of interest?
So it depends on the state and it depends on the office. So for North Carolina, we have something called dual agency, which is where one office can represent two sides of the transaction. But we also have something called designated dual agency. So that's when two people are in the same office, but they can't negotiate or tell each other anything about their client because I'm designated to this person, you designated that person. That state might have only had dual agency, and that's when the office is just like a transactional person between the two. But it's not always a conflict of interest because let's say if we have a big brokerage like Keller Williams in the area, Keller Williams have 200 agents. So if you tell me if I'm an agent from Keller Williams, you're an agent from Keller Williams, you tell me I don't want to do dual agency, that means that you're taking potentially 200 people's buyers from coming to see your house or 200 people's, you know, connections from coming. So it's possible to do designated dual agency where you can still be in the same office, but we don't share anything about the transaction, about the seller or buyer personally. The only thing we could talk about is, well, my client's willing to do this, you're willing to do this, let's see if they agree. But you treat it just like you would treat you doing business with another office. So I don't know if they just didn't disclose that to you guys, but I'm sure you probably agreed to it on paper because they wouldn't have been able to do it. But that's when you have that your realtor is supposed to educate you on all of your options, on what's possible in a transaction.
That's the other thing. We have to. When you're doing, I'm sorry, Wilson and Wilson. When you're doing, but that's a whole benefit of this. When you're, if you ever bought a home, it's going to be 50, 60, 70 documents. You know, and they're going to say, oh, all you have to do is sign here. You know, read those documents, read the fine print. I mean, because the first time we bought a home, we didn't know they were going to sell our loan to somebody else. You know, and they sold it immediately. And we like, hold on. You know, so the second time, you know, I already knew the process because I read the whole document. So I read everything, and I read to the point to where I knew that I still had a grace period if I found something wrong with the house because we had it built. You know, so there was things that I found after we moved in that they still had to come and fix. You know, because you had a grace period because you didn't live there yet. You did your final walkthrough, but when you actually live there and you're putting things in, you're still seeing things. You know, so you have a grace period of a certain amount of time. But if I didn't read the fine print, I wouldn't have found these things. You know, so make sure that, and that goes with any type of contract. Make sure you read everything, read all the fine print, because if you don't, once you put your John Hancock there, you know, that's a legal binding contract.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. I love it. Listen, so in case you got to leave somebody, can you go ahead and give your contact information so if they want to follow up with you after this, they can do so?
You can find me on Facebook. It's Samaya Best Realty, or just Samaya Best. I have on a yellow shirt on my my profile picture, and my Instagram is that Samaya Best, and my website is SamayaBestRealty.com.
Awesome. Can we clap it up for her as well? Thank you so much for that information. So now we're going to talk about something that's near and dear to our heart. What's that? That's our children, our babies. And here to give us knowledge and information on all things children from birth to kindergarten. Anything after that? I got somebody else for you.
Get somebody else to do it.
I got somebody else after that. But from birth to kindergarten, here to talk about all things from birth to kindergarten about your babies, soon to be, Dr. Leslie Gordon. Come on, clap it up. Les,
What's up?
listen, thank you so much for coming out today, for doing the panel. I do appreciate it, and we love you. So, first question. when it comes to doing what you do, why are just the world of children in general, why is it so important to be able to develop from that initial stage of birth before we start talking about schools and all this? Why is just that initial stage of development so important?
So I actually started off in nursing school. And being military, we know how traveling goes, and we know how you got to uproot and reroute and uproot again. So I've actually been in childcare for now 24, going on 24 years. I've been a family childcare home where I worked at home, to being a teacher, a lead teacher, a director, an executive director, and now I work for the state of North Carolina. So I firmly believe the first 100 days of a child's life is where they're molded the best. They are sponges and they take in everything that's out there. So I chose this career because quite frankly, the nursing career scared me. I actually found out that you give them the wrong medication, them jokers can die. I was like, no, I'm not about that smoke. I'm not about that. So I fell into the education. I took one class, and then I was like, wait, I kind of like this. But by the time I got done being a teacher and by the time I got done being a teacher and a supervisory program specialist, I fell in love with the capability of reaching others and teaching them how to educate our children. And because, especially now when COVID happened, the education world took, especially for birth through K, took a major hit. And it's being played out in schools now. And with the birth through K children, the parents kept them at home. They were not exposed to maybe even other children. They may not have been exposed to even some germs. So you have that delay there. And then you go into potty training. Then you go into just basic needs of being able to hold a crayon, basic needs of drinking out of an open cup. You go into those little things that these children don't know because they get a sippy cup at home, and when they get to kindergarten, they can't drink out of an open cup because they were never exposed to it. So I like the idea of being involved with teaching parents, teaching teachers, even directors, how to educate our young babies.
So let's talk. You mentioned potty training. You mentioned drinking out of an open cup versus a sippy cup. At what age is the appropriate age to start potty training?
When your child is ready. I know we see a lot of people, oh, my child is 9 months old, I put them on a potty, or my child is a year old. If your child is not developmentally ready to do these things, stop. You're going to scare them and make the process longer than what it needs to be. Signs that they're ready. And I actually have a friend, her name is Professor on TikTok and Facebook, Professor Potty Trainer, because she is an ace at it. There's only been one child that I have never been able to potty train, and that was because he has some special needs, but he potty trained himself not to do anything at school. So me and his parent worked something out, communication there. But when your child is ready, they're able to pull their own clothes up and down. When your child is ready, they can tell you the poop or pee-pee or whatever language you use at home. They're able to articulate something that they have a need. But if they can't pull their own clothes down and tell you those things, or they don't have the verbiage for it, they're not ready. So stop pushing them. We sometimes as parents, because we see little Johnny Q over here doing it, we compare our kids to that child, and that child may be ready, but your child is not, and it's okay. It's okay.
So how do you combat that? Because I feel like my child is ready because they're in the same class as little Johnny, and they're all there. They play together, all these things. So is it something behaviorally? Is it something mentally that says, hey, they're not on the same? Like, how do you know when it comes to a child's mental state, if there are development issues, if there are deficits, things like that?
Well, first of all, you have to have a relationship with that parent. I, as a child care provider, cannot do anything without a relationship with the parent. And if that parent is so gung-ho about potty training their child, it is my job as the educator to go in and say, Mom, let's come in. Dad, let's come in. Let's talk about this. and show them the resources that they are there to help them to understand that their child is not ready. If they're still being pushy about it, I'm gonna kindly let them know this may not be the facility for you. Because this is how we know, because we're gonna do, we call it DAP, developmentally appropriate practices, all day, every day. And if you cannot understand or receive the developmentally appropriate practices that we provide at this facility, let me help you find another facility to go to.
Can you talk about finding the right facility, daycare, when it comes to, hey, I gotta work, I gotta go find, because nowadays you can Google, right? And you look for, so 5 stars, 4 stars, all these things. I think we kind of look at them like hotel ratings when it comes to the child care. And so we say, okay, well, we look at that, and we also look at it from a money perspective, because daycare workers, I'm not gonna say y'all, but daycare workers
Don't make enough?
won't $125 to $200 a week. The average American is not making that money to be able to afford daycare a week. So how do you find, or what advice in terms of finding the right facility or daycare for your child?
Well, first and foremost, a lot of people don't know that you can go to the DHHS website or the DCDEE website, which is for early education of young children. You can go to that website and click Find Child Care. A lot of parents don't know that in the state of North Carolina, every licensed facility is listed on that website. You can click by county, you can click by city, it doesn't matter, but you can find a quality child care provider. Once you go on there, I highly encourage everyone looking for any kind of care to go and look under their license information, to look under the visit reports, because that will tell you what kind of violations they have had. That can tell you what their license has been, if they're on a probationary license, if they're on a temporary license, if they're on a 3 to 5 star license. It'll tell you all of those things. Now, one secret that I will tell you, and I won't get in trouble for it, so it's really not a secret. Not all 1-star facilities are bad. Not all one-star facilities accept, subsidies. That's the only reason. They may want that private pay. They're not always bad just because they only have 1 star. Not all 5-star facilities are good. That just lets them know the level of grant money, the level of subsidy money, and the market rate differences that they will get. Some are very good. My grandbaby, we researched. She had a resource to research where she is, and I get to see everything, so I know what I'm dealing with. But sometimes these violations are minimal things, and somebody may have stopped someone from getting maybe their 5th star. And the violation is simply, I didn't have a lesson plan posted on the wall, because the consultant came in on a Monday at 7 a.m. before I was able to put it on the wall. So you really have to look at those visit summaries and their license history. And I think there's another level to where you can see any actions taken and see if they're on an administrative action. If they're on an administrative action, find out what it's for. Because sometimes parents do report child care facilities because they didn't do what they wanted. The child care facility did not do what the parent wanted them to do, such as serve their baby a glass bottle, such as serving their child in stainless steel material. So sometimes you have to really do research at these facilities to figure out why they're on administrative actions and things of that nature.
So let's talk from the parent perspective. The parent perspective, when it comes to, if you can, when it comes to advocating for the child. I know there was a big news article, big video where a daycare worker intentionally harmed a child in the facility. And so the parent's upset. What actions or what rights or what things can parents do to make sure that their child is completely taken care of when they're in the care of someone else?
First and foremost, parents, I congratulate you on even advocating. Because believe it or not, there are some parents that do not advocate for their children. There are some parents that just drop their children off and they go. They drop and run, as I call them. But they do not take the time to get the relationship with the provider, They need a relationship with the director, especially the assistant director, because believe it or not, assistant directors, they really run the show. The director does all of the state paperwork. Right. They're there at all these meetings, finding out all about all the different grants and different not loan packages, but different monies that the state is offering to them. So it's all about the parent having a relationship with the director, the assistant director, the teachers. That's another thing too, because sometimes parents, our children, with us, they act a certain way. But in daycare, they may act completely different. And you're like, wait a minute, that's not my child. My child didn't sit there for story time. Yes, your child did, okay? Because I command a presence when I'm in the room. I'm not abusive. I'm not yelling. I'm not doing anything. But once you cross over those doors, you're now my child. So you're my student. You're the child that I'm teaching for the day. And I have expectations. I have a system. I have order in my room. Now, what you do at home, I can't help you with that. But if you're coming to me asking for advice because now we have a relationship, I'm going to ask you, what is your structure at home? Well, I can't get them to go to bed on time. What is your structure? Because at nap time every day here, everybody sleep. Because we set a standard, we set a structure. And children like routines. They want to know, when am I going to be fed? When are we going to have our favorite story time? When is it dance time? When is it playground time? Having that schedule helps you, not just at daycare or childcare, or it's at home too. So a lot of things the parents expect for us as the childcare field to do, and Pastor Friend right here, she'll tell you, they expect us to do so much, but they don't do much at home. So the parents play a big part in what happens in childcare, and we play a big part in what happens in that child's life.
Last and final question, for the sake of time, because I have more. Preparing the child for school. I'm 5. I'm ready to go to kindergarten, be with all my friends.
I told you 3, but I'll go ahead because I got that. I got that NC pre-K experience too.
Thank you. Let's go.
Oh, and just so you know, there is free pre-K for children. It's called NC pre-K. If you qualify for it, then I implore you to go and get it. If you can't afford it, still do these private systems, because pre-K is important for their child. Okay, now going to that. The way that you prepare your child for pre-K is to expose them to different things. It's simple as that. Being military, you know what it feels like to see different cultures. You know what it feels like to have different experiences. So allow them to play t-ball, soccer, what's some other stuff? Football, flag football, actually. All these little things, golfing. Let them explore and expose them to different things. Get into some of these play groups. They are helpful. I know here in Harnett County we have child care. It's not Child Care Network. Harnett County Partnership for Children. There we go. And Cumberland County has one too. Cumberland County Partnership for Children. Sanford has one. Sanford Partnership for Children. They may have different names, but go into these different agencies and you'll find different ways to find funding for child care. You'll find different avenues that you can help with children that have special needs. You have help with children that have never been in daycare before but need to be exposed. This is a great way to get them exposed to different things. So exposure is key. Expose them, expose them, expose them.
Any questions for Dr. Leslie about child care? Cool. Listen. Yes, because I was waiting for your comments.
I just want to say COVID proved, it proved that some of the parents that's needing daycare need to work with the daycares.
Yes.
Because you don't know what you're doing at home.
That's right.
So if we build that relationship, and we can literally assist and help with your child if you will assist and help us with your child. Because COVID proved that you don't know what you're doing. So instead of coming against the daycares, work with the daycares. Listen, there's a bad McDonald's out here. There's a bad Hardee's out here. There's a bad whatever out here. There are some good daycares with bad people.
Yes.
You know, everybody don't have the heart for children. Some people are in it for the money,
That's right.
which I don't know why.
It's an easy field to get into,
It's an easy
so
field to
that's
get
what
into,
it
yeah,
is.
because it's not the money. But some people are there for whatever their reason are. All of them are not good. But don't charge it to the daycare owner. Let's get in there, work, let's talk about it, let's get it done. And if any daycare owner was like me, a teacher literally know they can leave like immediately, because I can work any room in that daycare. So work with the daycare, the child care facility, work with the directors, work with the teachers, because some of these teachers really do love kids. You know, and if you work with them and teach your child, like with my children, my own children, I told my children, I homeschooled my kids for 5 years. And I told them when they went to school, I said, if you give these teachers a heartache, man, you're going to have a problem.
Yes.
Because they're doing me a favor.
Yes.
Because I had came to a point in life where I was in school, trying to homeschool y'all, I was burnt out. So I couldn't give you what you needed, so I had to get some help. So you're not gonna go in there and disrupt their class. You're not gonna go in there and act a fool. Where on the spectrum with the daycare, people think just because I'm paying you your $40 a month or whatever they're paying, that they can come in there and just treat daycare workers and teachers any kind of way. That's not the case.
And a lot of times the parents, their expectations
Yeah,
are not realistic.
are not realistic.
Your 2-year-old child is not going to be reading.
Right. Not
Okay,
gonna
I
be
don't care
reading.
how many leapfrog situations you get. Right,
Absolutely.
right, right.
Absolutely.
So and then don't get mad when the teacher is calling you saying that your child is saying inappropriate things.
Absolutely.
They heard it at the house. No, they didn't. They got it at the school. No, because I don't roll like that in my classroom or in my facility. So no, this is something that's learned at home. And I guarantee you anything that's learned at home is going to present itself at school. So we going to know your business. That's another reason why after they hit 3, I send them over to Pastor Fran, because they tell all your business.
Everything.
Every ounce of your business, they're going to tell it at daycare. So what you're doing at home, don't bring it into the daycare or let your child see it and hear it, because they're going to tell us at the daycare. And because we're mandated reporters,
Absolutely.
thank you. The mandated, that means I am required to report anything. And for me, I'm going to report it because I'd rather something not be there and they investigate it than something to be there and I never open my mouth. So I will never, ever apologize for being a mandated reporter. I don't care who you are. If I see something wrong, I'm going to say something, period. So if you don't want it to be brought to the daycare, don't do it at the house. Because your children, I told you, the first 100 days, they're sponges. And they're going to take up everything that they see and bring, like my mama said, my daddy hit my mom, they going to tell it. They're going to tell it. So the parents need to really understand that they play a crucial part in raising their children. And it's not the daycare's job to raise their child. It's the daycare or the child care facility. I got to stop saying daycare. It's the child care facility's job to make sure your child is safe. They're learning something that's age appropriate. There's a reason there are different classrooms in different facilities. There's an infant, toddler, maybe even have a pre-toddler like we had in the military, your 2s and 3s, and goes on. You shouldn't be they're not mixed that often, but there's a reason, because you won't have an infant in a 3-year-old room. You won't have that because they're at 2 different levels. It's called developmentally appropriate practices. Thank you for your time and service, because woo, girl.
Right now, I am doing autism. I work with kids with autism, but I have my bachelor's in child development and family relations. I was trying to figure out, because working with the military family is quite different with children. I see more of behavior within the military facility with children. It's a high level of behavior with children in childcare. So what is the difference because I only intern outside and work with the military families. So what is the difference between, okay, let's say the real war,
and the military ward because it's quite high.
I'm going to say it's continuity of care. If a child, say for instance, here at I keep saying Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty, my child was in a child care facility and just happened to have a special need, such as autism special disorders, any of that. They have that need. If it's not documented and that child PCS is to another facility or another place, then they have to start that process over. Also, if the parent gets out of the military and there's nothing documented or the finalization of documents are not there, then that causes another issue, and then that provider that's receiving that child is now having to figure out. Also, sometimes parents don't say, my child has a special need.
Okay.
Right. They won't, a lot, especially in the birth through K field, they won't say it because they feel like they're automatically gonna not be able to go to this facility. Now, I do implore the parents that have children that have special needs to find a facility that can handle the care and handle that particular child's needs, but don't automatically shun them away. I just happen, like you, to work with children with autism spectrum disorders, and have that certificate and that degree in that. So I was able to take all the children right up the street here, I ain't gonna say the school, but right up the street from my house, and I never had a problem where they were getting kicked out of different daycares. But I also had something that some other daycares didn't have, and that was Jesus Christ, because I didn't have a problem going in and oiling some babies down.
Yeah.
No problem at all.
Every day.
No problem at all. So I think it's all about making sure that the parent is, filling out the application. The minute something is present, that parent needs to say something, or the teacher who's with them needs to say, hey, what's going on? But a lot of it is continuity of care with military.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Leslie. Listen, there will be a part 2 2025 because there's a lot of information. And I want to make sure you guys get this plus more. So as we dive into our final topic for the day, thank y'all for hanging out with me. I know we extended time, but thank y'all. We're gonna talk about something that's very near and dear that everybody in America needs. That's insurance, life insurance, final expense insurance. We understand that at some point in life, what's gonna happen? We all gonna die. So here to talk about all things final expense planning, insurance, and all those fun things. Y'all make some noise from the doctor. She's in the building, Dr. Rashia Barbie.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Listen, this man here is something else. He can get me to move on a Saturday when I'm supposed to be in the field. He's absolutely phenomenal. But I definitely want to first and foremost give it back to the angels of this house. Just as I've never met you all in person. I've seen you on social media through like people posting, but just your spirit. I just love your spirit, and spirit no spirit, right? And the genuineness and the authenticity that I feel and receive from you all was just absolutely phenomenal. So thank you for opening up your house for this. Thank you, Minister Thomas. Thank you, Minister Latasha. These are my babies. They are absolutely my babies. And so he reached out to me like months ago when he was like initially planning this. He was like, you've got to be here. You've got to be here because he knows my passion for this area. We've talked about a lot of great things today, but we perish for the lack of knowledge. And without a vision, the people will perish, right? And a lot of times people don't want to talk about dying, but we all going to go. Not unless the rapture come in right now, but we're all going to go. And a lot of times we don't want to talk about that time when it's time to go because we don't want to face it. We don't want to have the conversations. We don't want to plan about it. But one thing for sure, we all know our birth date, but none of us know when our death date is going to be. And a lot of times our death date comes for a lot of families and they are not prepared. They have no idea, number one, how things are going to be paid for because there's no plan in place. There's no insurance policy. And if it is, they look at mama had this insurance policy and it's $10,000 and here's the paperwork, but they fail to realize that mama had a term policy and mama outlived the term. Right. So therefore, mama didn't get any more insurance. Therefore, there is no insurance policy. And so a lot of times we don't know these things because we get paired up with agents who are just out to make money. That's not your girl. I am that agent that is, if I write you a plan, for sure I'm coming back to review your plan with you, because the day that I wrote you, I'm not just telling you that you got covered, but I'm telling you how you got covered and what your plan is going to do when you do die. And so that not only am I meeting with you, because there's really no need to tell you, because when you die, you're not going to be here to handle the plan. I need to talk to your beneficiary. I need to talk to the person who's going to be responsible for making over 124 decisions when someone dies. True facts, right? And so I'm really passionate about it. This is an area that we stay stuck in because we have people that, no pun intended, because I got it all, right? I got the nails. I ain't got in my weave today, but normally I have in braids and weave, right? I got my nails done. I got my Michael Kors bag. We'll invest into those things, but we won't invest into a $25 a month life insurance policy because we feel like we're going to live forever. And even if we don't live forever, it's okay. Mama and them got it. I talk to grown folk all the time. Well, my mama got a policy on me, but baby, you 54. So you need to go back and you need to invest in your own policy, because that policy that your mama probably got on you is probably already done. Right? And even if it is paid up, that is great, but you can never have enough life insurance. I don't want anybody to raise your hands, but just ask yourself, do I have life insurance? Okay, yes. Right? But do I know what type of life insurance that I have? Right? Right. And does my children have life insurance? Does grandchildren? People have life insurance because for whatever reason, my young people feel like they're going to live forever too. And that they don't need it, and that we don't need insurance because mama got it. No, baby, I got a 20-year-old and a 19-year-old and a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. All of them got their own policies because I invested into them to have. But when my 18-year-olds turn 18 and y'all working, guess what? Y'all now get ready to pay this premium. Because I need y'all to understand the responsibility and accountability and the seriousness of it, because we all need it, right? A lot of times we get insurance and the agent will say, well, you just got covered. Well, the follow-up question needs to be, well, what am I covered for? What does my life insurance policy do? What is it going to do when I die? Is there a 2-year waiting period on the policy? Because if you got certain health conditions, more than likely you have a 2-year waiting period for that full benefit to pay out. But most people won't ask those questions. They say, oh, I got a policy. And then when someone dies and they didn't understand, the beneficiary didn't understand how it was going to pay out, now we have a bigger problem. Because funeral homes have gotten tired of being nice. If there's no plan in place, or if there's no policy in place, or there's no secured funding in place to take care of things, you're going to lay on the refrigerator bed until we can see something. And so my job is just to simply just educate people about the variations of policies. I don't know if you want to ask me questions. You know I can flow with this all day. But I just want to make sure that people understand the differences in types of policies. And one, most importantly, I want to make sure that people have a final expense plan, because that's totally different from just having regular life insurance, right? Because life insurance is really intended to maintain your lifestyle once you pass away. So most people will invest into the term policies, and that's what happened back in the day. The other persuasions went into our homes, sold grandma and grandpa all these term policies because they only paid $20 or $30, and they liked that because it was cheap, right? But grandma and grandpa, they outlived that term. And now that's all they had. And so now that they're 94 and they're dead, there's no policy in place for grandma and grandpa because they outlived it. And then most of the time with the term policies, you can have those and you can get them started as a cheaper rate when you're younger. But guess what? If you choose to renew it or even convert it over to a whole life once you get older, now the premium is so outrageous, they can't afford it. So it puts our people in a bind. It puts people in bind when you just have a term life insurance policy. Now, I have both. I have term and I have whole, and I have your universal indexes that grow my money. So I have all of those. But the only reason I have a term policy is because I own a home. So I need that term. If I die right now, I'm 45 years old, but I got 4 boys. If I die right now, my term policy will pay off my mortgage and leave money for them to do whatever else they need to do. So that's the only reason I have a term. But I have over 12 whole life policies. Why? Because I want to build cash value. I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave generational wealth for my children. And most people won't tell people about whole life policies and how when you invest into a whole life policy and you're 45, well, when you turn 65, you should still be paying the same rate that you paid at 45 because whole life is permanent insurance. It doesn't go anywhere. And most people don't want it because it's more expensive, but there's a long-term benefit if you invest in whole life over term life. If you don't have a mortgage, what you need term life for? And I get people all the time, I want $1 million term life, but you ain't even got $1 million worth of assets. See, I'm that one. Because I want to understand what's your reasoning for wanting $1 million in policy and you don't even have $1 million worth of assets. Come on now, let's meet people where they are and do what we can do on the levels that we can do it on, and then expand our horizons, because there's so many resources out here, but we don't really try to sit down and talk to people about it. So final expense planning is really, really important. Final expense plans mainly have your whole life benefit, right? And it gives that immediate funding that's needed at the time of death to take care of the funeral expenses. I don't care if you want a green burial, because a lot of people are going into that. Oh, I hear it all the time. Well, I'm donating my body, so they don't need no money. Well, you need money to donate your body too. Well, I want a cremation now because it's cheaper, so my family won't need about $2,000, but they still need the money, right? Whether you do a traditional burial, which right now in the state of North Carolina is running about $7,000 to $12,000 if you want a traditional burial, right? But there still needed to be funding needed. So final expense plans offer an immediate check to your beneficiary. So people say, well, that's not true because all insurances, you got to wait 2 years. I love when people say that to me because I just let them keep talking. I just let them keep talking, and then I educate them. Yes, all insurance has a 2-year contestability period. That's a difference from a waiting period. Contestability says that if you take out a plan with me or take out a policy with me and you pass within the 2 years of taking out the policy, then yes, the life insurance can contest the policy. They can contest, okay, how did this person die? Because really, they really trying to fact check me. Did I write good business or did I write bad business? Because then now I'm in trouble if I wrote bad business. That's why when I ask you your 12 health questions, baby, let's do the ethical thing and know Jesus at the moment. I don't know if you know him at night, but let's know him right now. Tell me the truth. Yes or no? Right? Because if something happens to you within 2 years, I need this plan to pay out. I don't need any issues. So tell me the truth, right? So that's the contestability part of it. Now, there's a 2-year waiting period. Some life insurances have full 2-year waiting periods. My carrier has what we call a return on premium. So what that looks like is that if you qualify for that plan, if you pass within the first year of taking out the plan, we're going to pay your beneficiary back everything you paid into it plus 10% interest. If you pass away within the second year of taking out the plan, we're going to pay your beneficiary back everything you paid into it plus 20% interest. Once you live that 3rd year and thereafter, it does not matter when you die, what you die from, we're going to pay back that full benefit. So what is my carrier saying? Well, most life insurance companies will say, if you've got COPD, if you've got Alzheimer's disease, if you've got HIV, my carrier is saying, we're not going to discriminate and we're not going to penalize folks for that. Because life just be life, and sometimes you don't ask to get sick. Right? We just do. But my carrier is saying we're not going to penalize anybody and we're going to cover everybody. And you're either going to get first day coverage with us, no waiting period, or you're going to get return on premium. But you are going to get covered, and it is going to be through a final expense plan. Now, that's the life insurance part of it. The other piece of it is the burial planning and the savings piece of it. Because you as I know, if you don't know, if you never had to deal with it, I had to deal with it in 2018 when my mother passed away. Funeral homes need to make their money too, right? And so if I take them a $15,000 policy on my loved one, well, guess what the funeral home want me to do with that $15,000? They want me to do everything with them. They want me to even have the doves coming out the casket, and I don't even need that. But they want it because they see that I have $15,000, right? So what my final expense plan does is that you don't have to take your policy to the funeral home. The check is coming to the beneficiary, not unless you want to take the funeral home and let the funeral home have the assignment. But the check is coming to the beneficiary, which is why when I talk to people and I ask, who is your beneficiary going to be? And they say, well, my son, Lil Ray Ray, Lord, that's my baby. He the oldest, and he going to take care of things. Okay, I know you love Lil Ray Ray, but is Lil Ray Ray going to take that money and spend it on your funeral, or is he going to go and take it and go buy him a new car? Because this check is coming to him. So I need a responsible beneficiary. that can handle things when things happen, right? So we have the planning pieces of it. We offer planning. Most people just die and they don't tell their loved ones what they want. And then they're stuck kind of making 124 decisions. Well, I know mama like purple, but I don't know if can we even afford these purple artificial flowers that y'all offering me? You know? So writing things out, having a plan, having that documented so people know what you want, right? If you don't want nothing all drawn out, say that. I just wrote a person yesterday. She said, make sure, baby, that they don't get up there telling a bunch of stories because they didn't love me when I was here. So make sure that funeral don't go over 45 minutes. We wrote that in her final wishes book. We put it on a profile so that when her son is making that emotional decision, he can remember what mama wanted. Also the savings piece of it, because funeral homes are going to want to take all of your policy, if not all of it, but most of it. So we want to make sure that you got a plan that will not only offer cash and the check, but we want to offer negotiations with the funeral home, because you, as an emotional beneficiary, don't know and won't be in the mindset to negotiate pricing on a casket and a vault. Because I'm going to take you as a funeral home director, I'm going to take you into my casket catalog room, and you going to want the best for mama and daddy, because mama and daddy was the best for you. But that don't mean the best got to cost me $6,000 for a casket that's going in the ground, because that's your price. Well, with a final expense plan, we have negotiations with the funeral home. And my company is going to always be on the line 24/7 to negotiate those prices for your family, so that your beneficiary doesn't feel like they have to make that rush decision, because I know we need to take care of this, but wow, that's a lot. $5,000 for a casket, that's a lot. It is a lot. So why are we paying it? Because you know you can go get your casket off Walmart and Amazon. Store it in a storage room, and then when you die, just tell them to go get it. You can, but people don't know that, right? So final expense plans, whole life insurance is really, really my message. I try to educate people about that and let them know. Anyone from ages 0 to 85 in the state of North Carolina can be covered with me. I don't care what you got. You can have pre-existing conditions. You can have COPD, Alzheimer's disease, HIV, disease of the heart, disease of the liver. It doesn't matter. You can get covered, and that's why I'm out here trying to make sure that we understand you can get coverage. Most people won't even sit down with a life insurance agent because they've just heard all the horror stories about they can't be covered because of their health condition, and it's simply not true. It's just that we sometimes don't want to face those conversations because we feel like we're going to be prejudged. And so I really, really am very passionate about it. Want all my people to understand it, and just out here sharing it. Yeah.
So Rashia,
Yeah.
I don't need life insurance. I got a GoFundMe page.
Well, bless your sweetheart. Because GoFundMe, that's the go-to for people when they don't, or you gonna see them at the Mason Hall because they need to do a chicken dinner or a fish dinner to raise the money. I tell people all the time, that's all great and wonderful. I don't bring chicken to the family's house. I bring the check. Which one you want? Because you can eat that chicken now, but it's not gonna pay for a funeral, right? And so I say, okay, and then people say, well, we're just gonna do a GoFundMe. That's great, but do you know that GoFundMe takes 20% of what you raise? So if you only raise $1,000, you're really not raising nothing, because they're gonna take 20% of what you raise. And people get mad when, I say like, your GoFundMe is not your insurance, but it's a resource. No, it's a resource because you didn't properly plan. And you can't tell me you can't afford it, because I'm looking at you and I can see your wardrobe. You can afford it. You can afford it. It's just that we don't want to. And people say, well, you're judging me because of what I have on or whatever. You don't know what I had to do, but you did something to get it. So let's prioritize this much needed need, because if it's not prioritized now, it's going to cause 3 C's for your family: chaos, conflict, and confusion when you die, if there's no plan in place. So let's invest now. Yeah.
Any questions in the room about final expense, life insurance?
Yes, sir, Apostle.
Now, when you say the whole life is expensive, whole life is expensive. So to combat that, I got term.
Yeah.
Because whole life for me at the same price that I was getting for term would have been almost a car note.
Absolutely.
So how do we navigate that? How do we navigate not having to pay $600, for whole life? Because $600 a month for whole life is a lot of money. Now I know that it's an investment because it's also acting as a savings, and it's accumulating cash value. But in essence, everybody don't have $600 a month. For when on the other hand, you can pay $160 a month and have term to you 75. Well, in my case, I'm 75. Now in essence, when I'm turning 75, I'll be paying $600 a month. For another term. If I'm not priced higher than that. But in the interim, the $160 is way better than 600.
Absolutely, and that's a great question, right? And so that's why I said there's different offerings that you can get when it comes to term and whole life. First point is, don't wait until you're 50 or over, or even my age, 45 and over, to try to invest into a big whole life policy, because the older you are, the more your premium is going to be, which is why I try to talk to my younger people and say, if you have a job that is paying you getting a net pay of $200 every 2 weeks, you can afford a $25 premium a month now for a $50,000 or $100,000 whole life, because it's cheap for you now and it's not going to change. So that's the first thing I would recommend, getting it when you're younger, but in most of our cases, we could not do that, right? So I get getting a term that's going to give you the same face value, right, as a whole life would, but it's going to be cheaper for you to do a term as opposed to a whole life. So really looking at it when you're younger is better, but most people can't afford a $600 whole life payment, plus they're paying a $1,500 mortgage. It just doesn't work like that. So what I would say to that is that minimize the face value, because that also factors in how much your premium is going to be as well. And, if you are and you do have certain health issues, there's different products out there that you can get. I only write for 2 carriers, though. And the only reason I only write for 2 carriers is because a lot of these carriers out here, you sign up to write with them, and once you're a licensed agent, they come after you anyway because they want you to write for them. But I don't have time to write for a carrier that I done sat here with my client and I done got it all in their business, and then you come back and tell me they ain't qualified. For me, that's not good business for me, and it doesn't help my client. So for me, I only choose to write with 2 carriers that I know is going to qualify my people, and that is Lincoln Heritage and that is American Amicable. American Amicable is where I use my term products at, because if you are good health, may have some hypertension, may have some diabetes, I can still get you a good term product for little or nothing, right? I can still even get you a whole life, but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. But for me, I think it's more of doing it when you're younger, doing it maybe when you don't have a lot of health issues, because all that verified goes to how much your premium is going to be as well. But then also looking at, okay, I do want whole life and I do want a big face value, but let's start where it's going to be comfortable. That's the other thing too. Work with agents that don't just looking out for their commission, because I'm going to be real. I'm a pastor, but I don't get paid off my church. I get paid off of what I do out in this earth with this life insurance. That is my main source of funding. I'm a self-employed person, and I work off of commission. So if I don't write, I don't make no money, right? So at the same time, I also know, too, I'm not going to get paid as much as if I write a person that's $25 premium as a person that may give me a $150 premium. But that's not important to me. And I have one of my agents here. She's a 18-year-old new agent, new self-employed. She's a full-time college student, but I invited her to this because I want her to see the whole picture of this. You don't do this stuff from your pocket, because if you always do it from your pocket, you're going to be a broke agent. If you do it from your heart, you ain't never got to worry about getting paid. So for me, if you tell me all I can afford is $25 a month, well, baby, let's start there. But I want this $35,000, though. But baby, you see the premium on that, and you done told me you on a fixed income. So why go to a $150 premium when you know you're not gonna keep it on the books? So for me, I'd rather you get what you can afford. And if you working with me, and I'm working with you, Apostle, and you say, well, I don't want to spend over $200. I'm not even showing you nothing past $200, because you've already told me what you want to spend and what you can spend. So just a lot of different variables, but those are some of the keys.
When you say in our younger age, how young? Because I have young adults right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they're ranging from 26 to Jada just turned 20.
Mm-hmm.
So in that age range.
Right. So even in their age range right now, they can get a $10,000 policy for $20 a month, whole life, and they're 20 now. When they're 40, they're still paying the $20 a month for 10,000. Right, and it's building cash value for them too. So on top of their 10,000, now cash value doesn't build as quickly for younger people as it does for my older people. So if I'm writing a 65-year-old or a 55-year-old, their cash value is going to start building in year 2 of their policy. A 20-year-old is not going to start building to year 3 or 4, depending on their age. But at the same time, they're investing into themselves. They're paying the $20, right? And heaven forbid something happens to them, if they're perfectly healthy, whomever their beneficiary is getting that $10,000 to take care of their funeral. And see, that's where we're missing it, because our young people are dying, and now mama and daddy are trying to figure out how they're gonna bury them. When if we take care of it, the younger you are and you take care of it now, the better it is. Come on.
So I think it's called like something similar to child insurance through my job. Is that something good or not?
It's a rider. You have a rider. Oh, I'm so glad you said job. J-O-B. Thank you. Right, so I'm going to hit 2 things. Your job insurance is great. People tell me all the time, I don't need no life insurance. I got it on my job. Well, if your job decide they don't want to be bothered with you no more, guess what? All them benefits are gone. They're going to offer you the COBRA plan, but guess what? You can ready to pay triple what you was paying out of your paycheck for your insurance. So I always recommend, if you can afford private insurance, meaning you own your own insurance, right? Get it, right? That's the first thing about the job. You have what is called a child rider. So if your child is 26 or older and you added them as child riders before them, they no longer have insurance, because child riders end at the age 26. So you want to that's why people ask me, well, why you got all them policies in your family? Well, because I understand I got boys. They all boys. They ain't thinking about it. They might not be thinking about it when they get older. Right. So at the end of the day, I'm going to make sure that they got things in place now. So when they get out here and they start living their great lives, like my 2 oldest ones is doing right now, I said, go, baby, go. Mama, we going to do this. Go. Now, I got one that's in California right now at college. Need money every 2 seconds. 2 seconds. I said, baby, he said, Mama, we going to do this. We in Oakland now. We playing in Oakland today. Mama, can you send me $100? Not $1, $100. I said, okay, baby, yeah, I got you. But I understand the mindset. So why am I going to depend on them to take care of something that I know that I can help them to take care of now? So that child rider, people add child riders, and I do add child riders to my clients who have a big family or they have minors. And I say, well, baby, you don't have to get that person your baby policy right now if you don't want to. You can add them on as a rider right now for $4 to yours, but just keep in mind when they get 26, they no longer have this policy because they fall off. Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah, I got plenty of them. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as far as them being a rider, after 26, is it better for them to go ahead and get their own, or is it okay at 26 to start it?
I say this, I'm going back to what people can afford, right? So again, my children, I got all their policies, but when my children turned 18, I wrote them their own policies so that they would get in the habit of paying a bill. Because, I pay all their bills. So they need to get in the habit of paying a bill that's going to matter. So I didn't choose to let them wait until they got 26. I wanted them to learn it now because they had jobs. So for me and anybody else in that situation, if your child has a job and they're spending money on little nuances and things, this is one thing that they can start, because we're not asking them at 18, I'm not asking you to pay the mortgage, right? But this is something that you can start being responsible to pay for on your own, and it's yours. You own it.
So what I'm saying is, like, say like we were saying with the term versus the whole. So like we're starting off with term, we already know it's going to jump crazy.
Right.
When we try to go to whole.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. Is that the same thing with them, or no?
Right. So term and whole, either one, even if they get a term, it's still going to be cheaper for them. One, because they're younger, and term is cheaper. Whole is gonna be a little bit more, but it also goes by the age. But a young person, 18 to 26, they can pay $20 a month for a whole life policy.
Okay, so it's not, okay, yeah, I think you answered.
Yeah, so it's the same thing, but I think you were asking me too, like, should you wait?
Right,
If
that's
y-
what I'm saying.
yeah.
There's gonna be a price difference, like them being a rider versus just go ahead and get.
It will, because a rider is gonna be like $4 added to your premium. When they have their own, they're gonna be paying like 20, 30, depending on their age. It's gonna be more.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So,
Come on.
no, she was asking me what's Universal, but Universal is more index.
Yes,
for
index
stocks.
and stocks, and it's
Yeah.
growing as the stock market is
I
doing
took,
this. Yep.
I took insurance classes.
Hey, come on.
But
Walmart.
my son, I'm paying $50 a month for my son for term, and he's only 23. Now you said whole life, you can get somebody a whole life policy at 20 for $10 for 10,000 for $20 a month.
Yeah.
Now you can probably beat that price with whole life
Right.
somewhere around there for my son for 25,000.
Absolutely. Almost. And you say he's 23?
Yeah, he just turned 23.
Right. For 25,000 whole life, I can beat that on my American Amicable. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah. No, I'm gonna cancel the.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
because I can transfer. I don't know if I would can't. No, I can transfer the term to a whole life.
Correct. You can convert that over.
Yeah.
Right. But now, let me say this too. I am one of those agents too that I don't tell people to replace their policies. That's on you if you do that. The reason why is that because, especially in my line of work, because my field work is I work with seniors, 50 to 85. And I go into their homes a lot of time, and these other agents done come in and they done replace their policies they done been paying on, like their whole life policies. And I'm like, I can see you replacing a term, but you should never cancel a
Right.
whole to go with another whole and you done been paying on it. Like, that's ridiculous.
Right.
And I tell people, if you get with an agent like that, you want to get away from that agent because they not looking out for you, they looking out for their pocket.
Right.
So I'm going to say that to you. So before we cancel anything, and you do become my Rise client, because I speak it into existence, that y'all will, we're going to look at all of what you got so that we make sure that we making the best decisions for y'all, not for me, right?
Okay.
But at the same time is if what you're paying for a term for him, and I can get that same thing over that whole for about the same, then I would go with the whole because eventually
Right.
that term isn't going to be no good for him.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we can revisit, like we can look at whole life for my wife and I
Yeah.
as well, right?
Absolutely.
Because right now we're doing term for both of us as well, which will only it'll take me to 75.
Right.
And it'll take her to 71.
Okay.
But after,
Right.
I,
Cause it
I didn't say I didn't say when it started. And
Yeah.
I didn't say what term I had.
Right.
Term can be 10, 20,
It can
30
be 10,
years.
15, 20, or 30.
Yeah. See
Right.
now. No.
Yeah.
But you know, the question is going to where, you know, now I'm thinking more in the future,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so I would like to see about converting not just my son but my whole family
Right.
into whole life.
Right.
So yeah, I would like your card as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm home that day because I feel like I ain't
Right. we gonna make sure the woman of God ain't been slightly. But and even to that, like I heard you say too, that you're military as well. I deal with a lot of veterans. I write a lot of veterans, and I hope that you know about all your deals with your VA coordinator and all that.
Well, I just found out that the VGLA is on every 5 years. You have to they re-age you.
That's right.
You know, so I just did a thing with USAA where I was going to get that same amount with a term with USAA, but I didn't sign the paperwork yet.
Right.
It was on my table for a reason.
Yeah.
Because we was gonna have this conversation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but and I'm glad the guy told me because they don't tell us that
Right.
when we're getting out the military.
Right.
You know, that they just tell us you got 450,000. But
Right.
they don't tell us every 5 years they
Re-eli-
research you.
Yep.
And then it's at that age you have to pay again.
That's right.
So, eventually you're gonna be priced out of that term.
Correct.
You know, so yeah, I would need that specific amount as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the military is great and they do offer a lot of benefits, but so many military families have been under the pressure. Well, I was in the military, I'm a veteran, so everything's taken care of, and that's not true. And they think it's free, and they think, this true story. About two months ago, I wrote this lady that her husband passed away, and he was retired from the Army, put in 20 plus years at the Army. When he died, there was no death benefits from the military given to her at all. She thought she had applied up here at Fort Liberty, all that, nothing. And she was like, but he just knew, he told me that this was right. And that's why I'm like, we got to make sure we having these conversations. And so our beneficiaries know what's going on in the details, because when something happens, it's too late. It's too late. So I'm glad that you are on top of it and that you do have somebody that you're working with. But make sure you check that, because really final expense, when it comes to final expense and the veteran benefits, the spouse will really only get $734, and you can get up to $2,100. That is nothing to bury somebody. So, right. So that's good. So you make sure you know all those, like we was talking about earlier, reading that when we signing, but read that black and white what we signing, because it's hidden stuff in the black and white, because we not reading it. Yeah. So good. Yeah.
But it's good to know that you work with military families.
Yes, absolutely.
Any other questions in the room? So, Pastor Rashia, can you give them your contact information?
Yes,
business
absolutely.
cards?
I have some.
She'll put her business cards on the table.
Yep.
As well.
Mama,
So that way
we
she
gotta
can-
take care of the woman of God, because she gonna live. But no, to her point though, like insurance 101. Yeah, insurance 101 with females and males. Females, our premiums are going to be lower anyway, because statistically we are projected to live longer. So males' premiums are going to be higher. Yeah, so males' premiums are going to be higher. So that's probably why he's got to set up to 75 and due to 71. Yeah. Well, then, right. So that's what that means. So it's 30-year terms, and you're younger than him. So he slight you, baby. He did. He did. He just 30 year. But they are. Thank you. They are projected. Well, I mean, we are projected to live longer. So that's kind of what it is. But to contact me, I just had Minister Thomas pass out. I gave you all a free final wishes book. If you've never sat down to write down your final wishes, it's a great opportunity to do that. There's also just a brochure in there. If you fill that out and want an appointment with me, fill that out before you leave. There's a brochure in there, and I will reach back out within 24 to 48 hours to contact you so we can schedule. I am a personable person, so people say, well, do you got to meet with me? That's another, people so backwards out here. But anyway, that's another thing. Do you got to meet with me? Well, baby, how you think I'm going to be able to give you the information if I don't meet with you? So I say all that to say is that I do like to sit down with you, because if you decide to do business with me, I'm here for life. I've been writing business for 2 years. I've been licensed for 2 years, and I've had 7 death claims as of this past Wednesday. I had 2 of my clients pass on the same day. But my plan played out. Where it is, and they still waiting for State Farm and Nationwide to answer them. So I just say I stand behind what I do. I stand behind my family. So if you do want to just have a conversation, let me look at your policies, make sure we got what we think we got. That's great. So you have my contact there. That's my business line. You call it, text it. I'm going to answer. You can find me on social media under RN Barbie. You can find me on Facebook on RN Barbie. IG, I'm at Arise Den 17. And my website and all that is on my social media handles. You can click the link. You can, my admin now, she's making me schedule and use Calendly, which I wasn't a fan of it, because I like to be I'm a control freak. That's why the woman of God was talking about me. But I'm in therapy. I've been there for 10 years too. But anyway, but I'm a control freak, so I like to know where I'm going, know what I'm doing or whatever. But my client base has grown, thank God, hallelujah. That has grown so much in the past 2 years that I'm losing control of my schedule. So she's recommend, she said, Doc, you need to start using Calendly so people can plug in when they want to meet with you, and it'll automatically, you can accept it or not, so that way you're more in control. So I am getting ready to start moving over to that tool. But if you reach out to me and we schedule via text or phone, I'm going to be wherever we say we're going to be.
Can you give me your phone number? Say your phone
Yes.
for the people that are watching online as well.
Oh yes, I didn't know we were online. Hi, 703-7356 is my business line. And people say, will you answer your phone early in the morning? I will. With my, 910-703-7356. Oh, yeah. The man of God got control right there. He right. But people ask me, do you answer your phone? I'm like a first responder. I'm just like the fire department and the police department, because people are dying 24/7. When my clients died at 3, one of them died last Wednesday at 3 o'clock in the morning, cancer. I knew she had cancer when I wrote her. We knew that it was probably looking towards the end. She did not live her full 2 years, but Lincoln sent her a check yesterday with everything she paid, sent her beneficiary, everything she paid into it, plus 10%. She did her annual pay. They were still able to take care of her cremation. God is good, right? When she died at 3 o'clock in the morning, her daughter called me. Oh, hello. I'm asleep, but my phone, I say all this, I don't turn my business phone on, which is probably not a good thing, but I don't, because at the end of the day, when my people need me, they need me.
Can we clap it up and make some noise for Pastor Dr. Bashir Barbie, Arise Nation? Thank you so much. Listen to every panelist. Thank you, thank you, thank you. To everybody in the room, thank y'all so much for hanging out with me for Wilson and Wilson Weekends. Listen, this is the first of many. There will be another one next year in 2025, Lord willing. So listen, I want to give you guys some final nuggets, some final announcements while I have you in the room. Listen, you don't want to miss what's getting ready to happen. Somebody said what? I'm glad you asked. Listen, I believe in whenever we do this for Wilson and Wilson, we can't do it without y'all as sponsors, as partners, as believers in helping pushing the vision that we've been doing it, because we've been doing this for 4 years, and we're grateful to be able to do it. So listen, y'all don't want to miss what's getting ready to happen. I'm glad you asked. Listen, coming up real soon, October the 3rd. You don't want to miss it. Matter of fact, here, October the 5th, because I'm trying to get y'all prepared 2 days before. October the 5th, 9 to 3. If you are available, get here, get in the room. Get in the room, get in the room, get in the room, get in the room. Our very own, the doctor herself, Elder Leslie Gordon, soon to be doctor, presents Launch into Your Destiny with a powerhouse panel of fire. Listen, we got Sister Nancy Jones, we got Minister Adriana Reed, Pastor Marshall Singletary, Bishop Jonathan Pipkin, Reverend Kimberly Roseborough, and it all kicks off 9 o'clock, October the 5th. And we can't forget the keynote speaker herself, the doctor, Dr. Shabona L. Whitehead, will be in the building all the way from Maryland. Amen. So listen, get your tickets, ma'am, please, sir. Tickets are only $30. $30, 30. So get your tickets, and you get some food. You get food. Get your tickets, please. Get your tickets. Get in the room. Get in the room. Listen, you don't want to miss that. You do not want to miss that. Listen, so if you're going to miss that, you got another opportunity. Somebody else say what? I'm glad you asked. Listen, because the following weekend, you don't want to miss what's going down right here in Spring Lake, North Carolina. It kicks off October the 10th. Come on, October the 10th, the I Push Conference. Put on by my very own apostle, Apostle Patrice Davis. Listen, October the 10th, you don't want to miss it. It kicks off right here, 1080 Littleton Highway, Created to Serve Ministries, with our very own Apostle Glenn Davis for the men's panel. It's a men's gathering. You don't want to miss it. 7 o'clock. Nightly services are free. But then Saturday, it get even better because you got to pay. Aha. You got to pay for Saturday morning. Saturday morning, 11 o'clock hour. 11 o'clock, we got a whole panel. Dr. Shalise Brown is coming to talk about all things mental health. Listen, we're excited about that. We got Prophetess Kendra Conyers in the building as the keynote speaker as well. Listen, you don't want to miss that. I done jumped to Saturday already. I forgot about Friday. I got excited. Friday night at the Exhale venue, 1118 Bragg Boulevard, Spring Lake, North Carolina. We got to run the very own, the anointed woman of God herself, Pastor Latoya Brewington in the building. Raymond Ward Christian Center out of Wilson, North Carolina. I'm excited about it, and it's free. So y'all come on, get in the building, get there at 5 o'clock, so you can get your seat, take off work, do whatever you got to do. That's my wedding anniversary, so I'm going to be in the building. My wife gave me permission, amen. Praise God. Plus we working, amen. Listen, so you don't want to miss it. Keynote speaker for Saturday, 5 o'clock. We got the man of God himself, Apostle Dr. Harold Bennett III. He will be in the building, so you don't want to miss it. Power Pack Weekend. So listen, get your tickets. VSDministries.com. VSDministries.com. Get your ticket now. Tickets are only $50. Get your tickets. Only $50. Listen, this is the lowest registration ever. Ever. So get it now because 2025 is going up. So get your tickets now. Listen, we love you guys. Thank y'all for hanging out with me for Wilson and Wilson Weekends. Listen, stay tuned. Brand new show coming at you tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock. And can we make some noise for my wife just one more time? Because I can't do none of this without her. She keep me on my toes to keep me in line. Hallelujah. Listen, again, thank y'all so much for coming to hang out. I love you all. I love you all. Listen, panel, thank you. Listen, we pray you guys enjoy your gifts. Thank you. Thank you. Shout out to my wife for making these amazing bags and gifts for you guys. You guys got some tea in those mugs from the Oil and Water Lifestyle. That's what we do. So listen, get what you need. Listen, if you guys want to know more about Wilson and Wilson, there are pamphlets, there are flyers on the table for everything that we do. If you need a notary, me and Tasha both notaries. You need life insurance? Call me. I got you. Website design, financial planning from a business, from a faith-based perspective, all that and so much more. You don't want to miss it. So connect with us today. Listen, again, we love you all. Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask Pastor Tashana if she can please come close us in prayer. You know, we do that.
Can y'all pray for me? I've been praying all day.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Lift up the woman and man of God who have placed this event together. We thank you for every panelist, oh God. We thank you, Lord, for each and everything that you have already done for us, oh God. Lord, we thank you for even the visions that have came in this place, oh God. We thank you for the answers that we received today, oh God. We thank you for the connections, oh God, that will be made from this event, Lord. And Father, we pray for the next one. We pray, Lord, that he will continue to grow. The Wilson and Wilson consulting will continue to grow, Lord, and that you will continue to bring kingdom connections to them and through them, oh God, in the name of Jesus. Father, we thank you for those, for the woman and man of God of this house who was able to open it up for the Wilson and Wilson consultant to be able to have this event for all of us who are here today. So, Father, as we leave this place but not your presence, we thank you right now, oh God, in the name of Jesus, as we pray. Amen.
Again, there are refreshments over here on the table.